stage, but the spotlight dim. Many clicking past ain't feeling his hymn. Waiting for the moment, blow up like a piston. Haters gonna hate, but persistence gonna glisten. Hold tight, 20 turn to 100 someday. Laugh in their face, shouting, who wants some pay? dopest show.
What up, what up, what up, what up, what up, what up? What up, Twitch? What up, Ribbons? What up, bots? What up, lurkers? What up, tiny people in my chatterino? It's your boy, joined by my co-host, Stampy. I think, well, what up, bro? Open up a little snack time. He's been patient. Patiently waiting for snacks. Patiently waiting. For snacks. He is the Stampy and he loves the snacks. He's a good boy. He's a good boy. All right. No update on the job as yet. What up, Michael? No update on the job as yet. So we're still waiting on that. New schedule actually, like, for streaming starts at 1, but I was bored. So I figured I'd start early. And we can get to it. We're gonna watch some videos. We're gonna watch videos. Because I still need to work on the you did miss the treats, but I'll give you a bonus full screen Stampy. Still haven't figured out the Gemini. They did an update, and Gemini's like, yeah, they fucked you, bro. And I was like, so what can we do to fix it? And it's like, well, here's this complicated way you can go about it to make it work. And I was like, bro. And it was like, bro. And I was like, bro. And it was like, bro. And that's where we kind of left it. So I haven't had a chance to get back to it and get it updated. But we will get back to that. Hopefully I don't lose too many substackers in the meantime. Starting off, we got a new Neural Viz. This is the news 3.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, let's go to a commercial break.
Come on down to Pete Lee's Used Cars. These cars are actively being used. I don't own them, but I don't care. I'll still sell them to you. There's a family inside this car. Take them or leave them. $50 unless you'll pay $60. Make your way on over to Pete Lee's Used Cars, conveniently located next to the sign. Pete Lee's Used Cars. I don't know. I'm just trying things.
Welcome back again. A new bombshell report has just come out showing that they are still being used as shells for bombs. We'll keep you updated as these bombshell reports are released. But first, we are getting in word that the sun is gone. For more on this, we go to Stephen Curry. Stephen Lee.
Stanley, I stood here on the Pacific coast watching the sun slowly sink into the ocean like the movie about that big boat sinking.
My God, how could something so massive have sunk?
It was an iceberg, Stanley.
An iceberg sunk a star.
DiCaprio, yes.
We're sending thoughts and prayers. Give them 3 to 5 business days.
Could you send cash instead?
Speaking of money, the stock market continues to exist. Let's check in with our market analyst, Badley Bunny. Badley, how are the numbers looking these days?
Still like letters.
Watch out, stairs. There's a new tech in town called escalators. We here at Channel 12 have just found out about this disruptive technology that hypes you'll never have to stare at a stair again. Stairs are cooked. It is officially over for stairs. They will be 100% replaced by escalators. But it does beg the question, who controls these new artificial inclines? To find out, we sent investigative reporter Chrisley Pratt to our local mall. Chrisley, what have you learned?
Well, I think I've just gotten to the bottom of this, Stanley, and I can tell you it goes all the way to the top.
All the way up to the Illuminati, huh?
Actually, I think it's an H&M up there.
Sorry, Chrisley, we need to drop everything because a car chase is happening. Let's go to our eye in the sky, Timothée Chalamet.
We lost the light. We're going down.
To get a closer look at the chase, that's a good idea.
I knew this is how it would end. Send love to my wife.
She's not really my type. Moving on, the NBA Finals were this past week. For his reaction, we go to our sports reporter, Morgan Lee Freeman. Morgan Lee.
Stanley, I just want to take this sports instance to address my recent incarceration due to a heinously accurate guilty verdict where they're just looking for someone to blame for the things I did. And for some reason, they're pointing the finger at me. It's a conspiracy, Stanley. You got to ask yourself, who benefits from having me locked up? My victims? How high up does this go? H&M?
Morgan Lee, were you going to talk about the
What
game?
up, Reed?
I'm talking about the biggest game of all, Stanley, the one where they are accusing me of my actions.
I lost a lot of money on that game. Coming up, Santa Claus is coming to town early to sue Coca-Cola for using his likeness.
First rate, as always, never misses NeuralViz. I'm sure you're following NeuralViz. Up next, MSNBC. MSNBC. Why you should definitely not share this meme.
About 2 weeks ago, a Norwegian tourist named Mads Mikkelsen, who is not to be confused with the Danish actor from the James Bond and Marvel movies.
I'm rewatching Hannibal. Mads is so good in Hannibal. What up, Ed? So good in Hannibal. It's like so good.
Landed in Newark Airport. On arrival, he was detained by immigration agents who demanded access to his cell phone and then denied him entry to the U.S. As one Norwegian news outlet, which spoke to him, reports, quote, Mikkelsen says that after being warned he could face a fine or even prison, he gave immigration officers the PIN code to his phone. He was then confronted with its contents, pictures the officers found questionable. In particular, a meme of U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance portrayed as bald and a private photo of a pipe. Specifically, Mikkelsen says the immigration officials objected to this viral meme of the vice president depicting him as a bald baby. This and hundreds like it are all over the internet, as some of our viewers may have seen. Now, U.S. Customs and Border Protection has responded to these allegations. They say Mikkelsen was not denied entry to the United States because of this meme you can see on your screen. CBP says that it was over, quote, his admitted drug use. Mikkelsen says that he told the agents he smoked marijuana exactly twice in his life, once in Germany, once in New Mexico. But not everyone seems to believe that explanation. And if anything, suspected censorship of the Vance meme may have brought even more attention to it, which can happen in
I love how they're just letting it sit here.
cases like this. Yesterday, Democratic Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon shared the viral meme of Vice President J.D. Vance on social media. And in fact, that meme, the one you're looking at right here, even made its way to the floor of Irish Parliament.
We're watching a major incursion on freedom of expression, unthinkable in a Western democracy. This week, a young Norwegian tourist detained by ICE at Newark Airport and sent back to Oslo. Why? He had this meme on his phone, Minister, a meme depicting Vice President J.D. Vance as a baby. I mean, extraordinary, extraordinary. That a young person with this amusing meme on their phone depicting a public person, that this would be used as an excuse to detain him for 5 hours and then deport him back to Oslo.
Again, DHS and CBP deny that's the reason. But, you know, just in case they are not telling us the full story here, please, dear viewers, I hope you take appropriate precautions. I strongly recommend that you do not try to cross the border with this meme on your phone, or this meme, or this meme, or this one. There is absolutely nothing funny about having any of these on your phone. We are just looking out for your own safety here.
You've been told, right? Safety first. Safety first. Okay, so we watched this channel before. They're the ones who do the AI playing Minecraft. This is a different video called Langston's Ants and Turing Machines.
Ants. I love ants, and I, like many people that watch this channel, am probably a little bit awesome, and I love watching videos of ant simulations. This video is about my own ant simulator, but secretly, it's a video about Turing machines. My Simulator is a free website that you can go play with right now. It was programmed with AI. I have a full video on how it was made. If you haven't seen it, then I command that you go watch it. But the actual algorithm here...
I have it in the thing, and we were going to watch it, and we just never got around to it. But we want to play with the ant simulator.
Was invented by a human named Chris Langton, an artificial life researcher that created some of the coolest things I've ever seen and then dropped from the field in the 90s. I hope you're doing well, Chris. You made some cool stuff. This is Langton's ant. No, not LinkedIn's aunt. That's a very different thing. Here's how it works. The ant lives on a grid of black and white cells. It moves around on that grid, changing cell colors as it goes, like it's leaving pheromone trails. It has a current direction, and depending on the color of the cell it's currently on, it decides whether to turn left or right and how to change the color of the cell. The rules for Langton's ant are, if it's white, change it to black and turn left. If it's black, change it to white and turn right. You can invert those colors or turns however you want, and it will do the same thing. Following these simple rules, the ant initially seems to move kind of randomly, even though this is a fully deterministic program. At some point, it makes this almost symmetrical shape, but then continues in a mostly random pattern. Then, after 10,000 steps, something remarkable happens. It gets stuck in a loop and builds this structure out infinitely. This is called a highway, and it is a classically emergent structure. In my simulator, the grid borders wrap around, so it will eventually collide with itself. It is an odd and unexpected thing that such simple rules produce such a mix of chaos and order. But the reason I made this simulator is because I wanted to see what other weird things I can get these ants to do. Indeed, with real ants, things get much more interesting when you have lots of them. So what happens if we start with 2 of Langton's ants, right next to each other, both facing to the right? Almost immediately, they start to kind of work together, building a border that extends outward forever. Very unexpected. Even more interesting, when they eventually wrap around the edges of the grid and collide, they can start backtracking and deconstruct everything they've built. A weird property of Langton's ants is that they can sometimes do this perfect backtracking deconstruction. When they meet again in the middle, they start over, and they will do this forever. Even weirder, this border building behavior happens with any even number of ants all in a row facing the same direction of the row. It doesn't work for odd numbers of ants though. Why? Beats me, it just is. Bizarre behavior. 2 ants in a row facing up rather than to the side get stuck in an infinite dance. 4 of them, arranged in a square, all facing the same direction, make a little traveling party that moves endlessly in one direction without leaving a trace. Most other configurations just end up making a mess. That will be a common theme here, but there is still unexpected order here. Remember that these are all just following that same stupidly simple rule as before, yet you cannot foresee what they will do until you let them do it. We can come up with far more complex behaviors by introducing different cell colors, different movement types, and different logic. You can use these rule string things to encode ant behavior, they work pretty well, but they cannot encode all possible behaviors, so I just skipped ahead to make a universal rule set using state machines. I didn't invent these, obviously, but I've set up my own syntax with a lot of AI help. The ant's brain is a state machine, or a finite state automaton, which is a way of programming arbitrary logic. You can think of the state as the ant's state of mind, or its current mode. Its action now depends on both the color of the current cell and the state it is currently in.
I like these kind of things. You may or may not, of course. But Conway's Game of Life, right? That's an old school one that I love that thing. Every so often I still fire it up. On my Steam, I have a couple of mold simulators. Ficerium Slime Mold Simulator and Mold Lab. And they do similar kinds of things, and you can watch these particles interact and create really interesting patterns based on a variety of different like rules. What up, Charm Chaos? I started programming. Fractals were my jam. Fractals are so cool. Like a Mandelbrot set, right? So cool they made a song about it. It's just good stuff.
All of which decides how to move, what color to write, and what internal state to change to next. So it won't always do the same thing when it's on the same color, because it can be in a different state of mind. Here is some state machine logic written as a JSON object. It has two states and can read and write two colors, black and white, just like before. Each state has its own set of actions for each color. We always start in state 0, the first one, and we read black, which is color 0. So for state 0, color 0, this is the action. Write color 1, white, move right, and change to state 1. We are now in state 1, the second one, so we now follow these rules. We read black again, so state 1, color 0, write black, move right, and go back to state 0. And I think you get the idea. This is what happens when you run this logic over and over and over. I have also defined the special state -1 to be the halted state, where it will permanently stop. The state machine is effectively a program, and the grid acts as the memory that the program is reading and writing to. By definition, that makes these ants Turing machines, only with a two-dimensional grid memory rather than the classical one-dimensional tape. We call them termites, spelled with a U in reference to Turing machines and Greg Turk, one of the guys who originally invented this paradigm. Termites are universal, with enough states and enough memory they can compute any computable program. They are a visualization of computer programs in execution. When they repeat behaviors like this, they're performing a loop or recursion. Multiple ants are the equivalent of multi-threading, with many programs sharing the same memory. As you add more states and more colors, you explode the number of possible state-color combinations. I've artificially limited the number of colors to 12, there's only so many distinct colors, but you can randomize with up to 1,000 states. I've also added lots of different kinds of movement. L for left, R for right, U for U-turn, go the opposite of the current direction, and N for no turn, just move straight in the current direction. These are all relative moves, they depend on the ant's direction. But you can also use absolute moves, north, south, east, and west, denoted with arrow characters. These do not care about the ant's direction. Finally, there is S for stay, don't move at all, and question mark for random, which selects a random absolute move. The randomize button will randomly mix and match these movements, colors, and states to create some very complex ant behaviors. Typically, they're not that interesting. Most will just fill up the grid with noise, but if you just keep randomizing, you can find some really interesting ones, or manually craft them yourself. You can save the rule to a file and load it up later, or share it on my Discord. I'll make a channel for it. Yes, they can occasionally make some, let's say, politically charged symbols, which I am not interested in seeing on my Discord server. I've saved a bunch of cool ones in the presets drop down here, so let's take a look. I call this one the constructor. It just makes a neat spiral pattern, and then it keeps building around in a seemingly organized, deliberate way, for a while at least. I found it by just randomizing over and over and over. That's how I spend my free time. But the others, like this Archimedes spiral, were discovered by other people and published online. I just stole the rule. It was extremely useful to use AI to reconstruct these. It's actually kind of the perfect AI task. It's also a good sanity check that the program is written correctly, that the rules are being applied properly. If they weren't, these patterns would not just be slightly wrong, they would be completely wrong. They wouldn't work at all. Now, while it was a lot of fun to make this simulator with AI, I do sort of feel robbed of the experience of making it myself, of figuring out the algorithm and crafting the rules. I don't understand it as well as I would have if I had made it all myself. Also, you may have noticed there are little lingering bugs in this program, especially visual artifacts that have been very difficult to iron out with AI programming. On the other hand, I probably would never have made this at all without AI. It's a give and take, I guess. Some ants make symmetrical patterns, like this one, which is extremely rare since the ant must build each symmetrical side independently. There is no natural guarantee of symmetry, and even this is only occasionally symmetrical. Now here's an interesting question. This ant makes a structure that looks like it's bounded to this small area. It never grows beyond a certain limit. But is it actually bounded forever? It certainly looks like it, but maybe after a billion steps, it starts building a highway, like LinkedIn's ant, or it just continues inching its way outwards. As far as I can tell, we don't know the answer to this. Despite their simplicity, it is extremely hard to tell what these ants will do. An especially beautiful one, maybe my favorite, is this snowflake, which is also symmetrical. Almost. It's just a bit off, you can see that here in the center. Regardless, it's incredible that such a thing is possible by building one cell at a time. Given that these are universal Turing machines, I think it should be possible to build a perfectly symmetrical snowflake, but no such rule has been found. In fact, I think it should be possible to build any given image, like, say, a smiley face. This was a fully AI-generated rule, is it not super cute? It actually isn't that hard to write a rule that can make a given image. It just needs to go cell by cell, row by row, and lay down the right color for each pixel of the target image. I'm pretty sure that would work. Now, to prove that these ants really are Turing machines, we can build some simple Turing machine programs by simply restricting the ant's movement to east and west, side to side. We also restrict the colors to black and white, 1 and 0. This simulates the one-dimensional memory tape that Turing machines read and write from. Theoretically, the tape should be infinite, which it's not in this simulator, but you get the idea. With these ants, we can reconstruct the so-called Busy Beaver programs. These are a bit abstract, so bear with me here, but intuitively, a Busy Beaver is the most complex Turing machine that you can build with a fixed number of states that will eventually halt. Of all the programs that don't run forever, Busy Beavers run the longest. So take Busy Beaver 3. Its state machine has only 3 states, and it runs longer than any other 3-state program before eventually halting. There are plenty of 3-state programs that run forever, but they don't count. A Busy Beaver must eventually halt. Busy Beaver 4 looks like this. It has 4 states and runs for 107 steps. And here is the recently discovered Busy Beaver 5. It runs for 47,176,870 steps before halting. It's actually so complex that it cannot run properly here. It's too big and it overlaps with itself. Busy Beaver 6 is unknown and probably will be forever. The search space becomes enormous and the candidate programs run for far too long. Maybe I'll make a video on Busy Beavers in the future. I definitely want to make something about Turing completeness. Expect that in the year 2079. And to close out, you can make it so there are many ants, each with their own individual random rules. Since they can use different colors, if an ant encounters a color that is not explicitly defined in its rule set, it will treat it as color 0, black. Now, I don't know about you, but this is starting to look very biological to me, like an ecosystem. I think there is an evolution simulation waiting to be built here. Something like, if an ant produces enough of a certain color, it will reproduce itself and mutate its offspring's rules. I think that might be too simple and probably lead to huge overpopulation, so there needs to be a way of culling their numbers. I'll play around with it, and maybe with AI help I can build something like that within the century. But that's it for now. If you make anything cool with this simulation, please post it on my Discord, and thanks to my patrons for making this possible. I'll leave you with some cool footage. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.
Alright, next up. Y'all like robots, right? Just gonna let the video play out so they get their completion bonus. It's important to do that. I don't do it for like I didn't do it for the MSNBC because, you know, they're fine. But like for smaller creators, again, having seen the back end of what YouTube looks like, do your best to always play to the end of the video. So the algorithm gets everything that it needs and the video gets promoted. Robots? I did not say brobots. I said robots. They do.
Here we go. Ooh, that's a nice punch. And a sad kick, yes. That would have hurt on a human. This is not a tech demo or an animated film. It's a real fight, robot against robot, broadcast on Chinese TV just last month. Chinese humanoid robots have moved beyond the stage. From dancing at the Spring Festival Gala to trading blows in a boxing ring, they are now a symbol of China's tech ambitions. As AI took off, China was actively building its own language models and investing in the development of humanoid robots. They were not just designed to look and act like a human, they were also being trained to think like one. This makes it possible for robots to operate in settings typically designed for humans. China hopes the robots will become the next big engine of productivity, and it is the only country rivaling the US in this space. So just how far has China come, and could humanoid robots really change our lives? A recent report ranked 37 Chinese companies among the world's top 100 in humanoid robotics. And China now accounts for 63% of the global value chain, from design to manufacturing. In short, China isn't just catching up, it's competing.
They've been at this frontier for many decades than most countries.
China has, in some ways, an advantage, at least in the hardware manufacture, because the supply chain in China is, really massive. You can find everything you need in sort of certain industrial hubs. So that's why they've been able to drive the cost down, I think.
So how did China get to this point?
I mean, that's the goal, right? Fully automated luxury, chilling the fuck out.
It started back in 1990 when the Chinese university built the country's first two-legged working robot. By the next decade, the machines had human-like shapes that could mimic basic movements. It wasn't until the late 2000s that these robots began to move out of the lab and into its own industry. And in 2016, a public showcase of 540 Chinese robots dancing in perfect sync demonstrated China was ready to scale up. Fast forward to 2023, China's robotic industry took off, with more investors and
if you want any literature, there's some books in there, like Fully Automated Luxury Communism as an example of an optimistic future.
Companies joining the race. Companies scrambled to develop their own humanoid robot products, and China unveiled a national plan to build a world-class industry by 2027. It is part of President Xi Jinping's push for new quality productive forces, a tech-led vision that includes EVs, renewable energy, and artificial intelligence.
Robotics also can benefit from advancements in other areas because like electric motors are used everywhere. So there's a lot of research in motors to improve the quality of the actuator. We need longer lasting batteries.
Some Chinese cities have set up special funds to boost humanoid robot development. Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, and Chengdu have each allocated $2 billion.
China and the United States is definitely leading in terms of hardware development in the humanoid robotic space.
But the Chinese robot revolution still has a few weak links. The industry relies on US chips to train AI, and rising trade tensions make that access uncertain, threatening to slow its momentum.
Partly it's competition between the two countries because, you know, in America there's a few companies like Boston Dynamics and Tesla and others that are producing humanoids, and in China we can do it too.
I'm Abby. My greatest wish? To be adopted by a bunch of cheeky kids at a hospital, or some fabulous residents in an aged care home who'll let me make their days brighter, and maybe let me win at bingo once in a while.
Regardless of who wins the tech race, one thing is clear: the future is coming.
That's going to be like one of the, the iPhone or a ChatGPT moment for humanoid robots, and it's very near.
Consumers also see robots as the next big digital product.
Today I'm unboxing something wild. A humanoid robot that can actually walk, wave, and even sit.
Good to meet you, Greg.
But can humans be replaced? Let's take boxing as an example. Two robots fighting in a ring might look impressive, but they are still far from human. Chinese experts say their neural networks struggle with three things: perception, decision-making, and movement. Robots still run on rules, so they can't steal like us, think like us, or move like us. And as the state media puts more bluntly, the industry is still facing multiple bottlenecks. China still lags behind global giants like ABB in key areas like sensors, actuators, and motion control. More than 40% of key components are imported, driving up costs and slowing down mass production. So how much does one actually cost? Tens of thousands of dollars, according to state media.
A lot just depends on economics and cost. Right now I don't see robots coming down to like the price of a phone. So it's more like buying.
Alert's still not working. Jenny Burns, thank you for 15 months, homie. Thank you for 15 months. We'll try refreshing Trigger Fire and Twitch alerts. I mean, I'm literally using your tools, Twitch.
And now it's time to pop up number 7. Oh, that's a butthole.
Buying a car than buying a phone.
Silicon Valley bosses are already imagining a robotic future. Elon Musk says there could be 10 billion humanoid robots by 2040. Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang thinks they'll be as common as cars. But behind that vision, the real battle is over cost.
I have a butthole alert, yes.
Complexity, and competition. Without unified standards, brands can't even talk to each other. Data privacy, security, and safety rules are also inconsistent. So while the future of humanoid robots may be coming, it will likely arrive later, messier, and more costly than we think.
What up, Stoicide? Yeah, no, 18 months tops. Up next,
Can
more
you take
robots.
hats in a dignified and sophisticated manner?
You mean like a weenie? Okay. May I take your hat, sir? May I take your hat, sir? May I...
All right, I've heard enough. You've got the job.
That one and Old Man, I think, are your favorites. Oh, I hate it here. That's X1011's favorite. every time I do that. Oh.
Embodied AI is all the rage in China, from industrial automation to autonomous EVs, from delivery drones to increasingly advanced robotic humanoids and pets. AI is on board, and with their sensors, motors, and natural language processing, now they're interacting with us and the rest of the physical world, and it's arriving in much more lifelike packaging, as creepy as that may be. China's Ministry of Industry and Information Technology says China since last year has produced nearly 100 embodied AI robotic products, claiming the country holds 70% of the global market, due largely to its unrivaled stem-to-stern supply chain of critical parts and advancements in its own AI and chips. The embodiment, if you will, of China's DeepSeek moment.
I think that ushered in a whole corporate culture where we're trying many Gen AI use cases. We have also labs and PhDs who are working on these things. When would this ever impact the bottom line or have like real impact? I think that's the question.
We do know that the central government has put out a venture fund tapping about $138 billion for the development of humanoid robots for industry and for personal use. That is a lot of money and probably just the tip of the iceberg. In an otherwise difficult job market in China, online recruitment firm Zhaopin says the number of job openings in China's humanoid robotics sector has quadrupled so far this year from last, with salaries for the needed algorithm engineers rising well past the average urban pay. Hangzhou-based Unitree is one of the pioneers of consumer robotics in China, offering its latest so-called humanoid agent AI avatar, the 4-foot, 2-inch, 77-pound G1, on the web for $16,000. He can do all kinds of things. He can run, he can jump, he can get your coffee. Or for $1,600, there's the 4D ultra-wide recognition LiDAR-equipped Go-To dog, with plenty of tricks up its 12 flexible knee joint motors.
It can stand. It's just the beginning stage.
For China's vast industrial complex as well, rapid automation includes the increasing use of inspection and diagnostic bots with embodied AI, such as Lenovo's six-legged Daystar, deployed in places unreachable by or unsafe for humans.
I think the Chinese robots will
any moment now
come into the world, in a way that as a price for money and price of value, that will be quite unbeatable.
With the backing of state policy and funds, expect a myriad of new embodied AI products to try and grab your attention. Like it or not, we may be staring directly into the future. Stephen Engel, Bloomberg News, Shanghai.
It's a joke. People keep saying that the AI and bubble is going to burst any day now. And there's zero evidence actually for that to happen. As a matter of fact, some people attempted to use the dot-com bubble as a comparator, but unfortunately for them, it's different. It's not the same. Would it be safe to say that majoring in robotic engineering or AI is a good pathway for students? I would say yes, right? One of the questions is how far along are they in their educational journey, right? The whole 12, 13 years of K through 12, and then 4, 6, 8, depending, years of college are going to change that perspective. If they're near the tail end, then yeah, because a lot of people like all this stuff is still in the early days, and that talent and that education is going to serve them well. If they're like in, I don't know, like 6th grade, you kind of gotta like adopt more of a wait and see approach. It's still, like, in my opinion, even in a world dominated by AI, learning to code and learning like the ideas behind software development is still going to have value, because you're going to be able to utilize the AI better to develop that software. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I don't know about software development and coding that at this stage definitely hinder my ability to create things with the AI, where someone who has those skills, like Ribbons, for instance, they can get much more utility out of the AI. And I feel that that trend is going to continue for some time. And it's a lot of like, how does your brain work when you're doing this stuff? Still, is it better to have the robots have a human form or form of an android? There are, broadly speaking, there's two schools of thought. Humanoid robot has the ability to occupy all the same spaces that humanoid person does, right? So right now, in theory at least, a humanoid robot could do all the things that humans do, go the places that humans do, and like, so there's very little that you have to do in the terms of modifying the environment. Now, you can make an argument, we have made the argument, that, what up, Crix? The functions of accessibility, especially in terms of architecture, lend themselves to different types of robots as well, right? Like, the humanoid robot will be able to walk up the stairs, but there should also be a ramp for people who can't walk up the stairs. Ergo, like, you wouldn't necessarily need a human robot to walk up those stairs. That kind of thing. I want my robot to be constrained to a flat floor. That is absolutely valid. The design that I like the most right now has a, like a heavy base and then a humanoid upper that can go up and down on a post within the robot. That way it can use hands and other manipulators in order to access things, but it can utilize the stability provided by a wider, heavier base kind of thing. Johnny 5 actually had the ability to go upstairs because Johnny was on treads. So, and there's some interesting design for accessibility equipment that can use treads to go upstairs as well. So, like, there's a lot of interesting stuff out there. Up next, new AI daily brief. Agent deployments tripled last quarter. I love the AI skeptics who say something and then, like, within a month or two, it's proven like completely wrong. Johnny 5, I think, has an excellent form factor, right? Like, the treads, the heavy base, great stability, nice long arms and actuators, good actuated head, big cameras, right? I would love to see not a reboot, right? But a Short Circuit 3. Do a sequel, right? Do a sequel of, like, the child of Johnny 5 with the technology that we've developed since that, right? Why not?
Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief.
Exactly, Grix. As we have discussed before, even if a theoretical bubble did burst, it wouldn't necessarily be an indicator that AI is going away anytime soon. Definitely not. If anything, 3D is much more representative of hype than AI. 3D was marketed everywhere when Avatar was released and hasn't really gone anywhere since. Yeah. And nobody, like, I don't even know. I assume that you can buy a 3D TV somewhere still. Somebody's probably putting it out, right? Because the, remember Laserdisc? Laserdisc was a great piece of technology. It had these huge, they were like giant DVDs the size of an album, right? And they were superior in every way to DVDs. But they were big, right? And they had a whole lot of, things that go with them in that regard. They're still around. You can still engage with this technology. Because you notice on the wiki page, Laserdisc is an is, not a was.
Today, we return to the realm of enterprise AI deployments, specifically how agents are finding their way beyond pilots, beyond experimentation, and into production. KPMG has just released their latest quarterly pulse survey, and these are a very useful longitudinal way to track how attitudes and execution around AI and agents has proceeded among big companies. The survey captures the perspective of over 130 C-suite and business leaders for companies with over $1 billion in revenue across the US. In other words, this is a study of some of the largest companies. Now, we have been tracking this for over a year now. And going back to the beginning of 2024, the story was very different than it is now. In those early surveys, there was a recognition that AI investment is necessary, but companies were theoretically hung up on things like ROI, or more specifically, not even knowing how to measure ROI. Between Q4 24 and Q1 25, though, the story became very different. There was a continual increase in the anticipated spend on Gen AI, but more than that, the last Pulse survey.
And this is really like a lot of people who are in the bubble is going to burst, or no one's adopting this, or what have you. First off, they lack enough data to form conclusions, right? I will continue to make that fucking argument. Right? Remember AI, generative AI, according to Gartner, we were supposed to be in the valley of disillusionment, according to Gartner. Doesn't actually appear to be the case. Gartner, your hype cycle fucking model is bullshit, and I hate it. But also, like, they make these claims like, whatever the technology level is, whatever the quality, capability, all that kind of stuff, whatever it is right now, they make the assumption, at least their argument, not necessarily they, but their argument makes the assumption that this is as good as it's going to get. Nothing's going to change, right? Before the first company released milk chocolate, the consumption of milk chocolate on the earth was functionally zero. Within the first week after the creation of milk chocolate, it didn't go up that much. I don't know how quickly it got to all the different corners of the earth that it has gotten to, but it took some amount of time. Now, there are very few places on the world where you can't get yourself some milk chocolate.
They showed that the tools that we were paying attention to in early 2024 had become totally commonplace by the beginning of 2025. Between Q4 24 and Q1 25, the percentage of workers using knowledge assistants on a daily basis, so think ChatGPT, jumped from 22 to 58%. In other words, the assistant...
Honestly, Cosmic, I doubt it, but I don't care, right? That's the thing. Oh, I've been done by chalky milk since forever. Chalky Milk is so good.
Era of AI.
Remember when they would do the thing like after working out, you instead of drinking like whatever protein shakes or whatever, no, just drink Chalky Milk. It was like, yeah.
Become something of a table stakes. The big story.
This is my understanding, Cosmic, is y'all's because it's like more real, right? Where ours is all fucking whatever. But
then was enterprises were very clearly moving into agent land. The percentage of organizations that were piloting agents almost doubled between Q4 and Q1, from 37% all the way up to 65%. In other words, fully 2/3 of organizations were piloting AI agents in the beginning of this year. What's more, basically everyone was planning on deploying AI agents, even if they weren't piloting them yet. 99% said that they were planning to deploy AI agents. And as I've joked previously, I think that means 1% weren't reading the survey correctly. So what is the story this time around? And in short, it's that agents are moving out of the pilot stage and into production. Now, at first glance, you might notice that the percentage of organizations that were piloting agents was down from 65 to just 57%. The percentage of organizations exploring the possibility of using agents was down from 25 down to 10%. But the story is not about a decrease in agentic interest. It's about the fact that we were moving to actual deployment. Agent deployments tripled between Q1 and Q2 among these big enterprises, from about 1/10 of organizations having full deployments of agents to a full third. Another way that KPMG put it was that 90% of organizations are now past the experimentation stage. What's more, there were some interesting findings around what people were using agents for. When KPMG
I look forward to Ed Zitron, their apology video. I'm sure they'll be contrite. They will not be contrite. They're gonna run some bullshit and like that. So good on you, Ed. Way to grift your customers. I'm sure they love that.
Asked how much you were focused on efficiency and productivity versus revenue growth as it relates to their AI agent strategies. 36%, a little over 1/3, said that they were mostly focused on efficiency, with some exploration of new revenue opportunities. 18% said that they were mostly focused on new revenue opportunities with some efficiency prioritization. Literally no one said that they were focused entirely on either operational efficiency and cost reduction, or on the other end of the spectrum, entirely focused on creating new markets and revenue streams. And in fact, the biggest slice of these enterprises, nearly half at 46%, were equally focused on efficiency and revenue growth. Now, this is, of course, super interesting to me as someone who talks a lot about the difference between efficiency and opportunity AI. At least from an intent perspective, it seems like most organizations are at least a little bit paying attention to both. A couple other interesting notes, statements that leaders agreed with about agents over the next 12 months. 87% agreed that agents would prompt organizations to upskill employees in roles that will be displaced. In other words, they anticipate that agents will take over some big chunks of work that will require employees to be upskilled to do other things. 87% agree that agents will redefine performance metrics. 86% believe that agents will enhance job satisfaction by helping manage workloads. And right now, it's worth noting that every survey that comes out, and one can be skeptical of this reasonably, but it is very consistent, shows employers viewing agents as something that makes the work experience better for their people, not just a tool to ruthlessly cut headcount. Maybe the most interesting statement that leaders agreed with was 82% of leaders agreed that in the next 12 months, AI agents will become valued teammates and contributors. This really puts a fine point on that idea that we are moving out of the exclusively assistant AI stage and even the agent pilot stage into something where leaders are anticipating full digital workers collaborating with their people. Commensurately, as agents become more ubiquitous, data has gone up as a concern. Both data privacy concerns and quality of organization data concerns have increased over the last couple of quarters. When it comes to barriers to agent deployment, a lot of them have to do with employees. 39% viewed systems complexity as one of the major challenges, but 47% of those surveyed thought that their workforces were resistant to change, and 59% said that they had technical skills gaps. And given that I've lamented in the past how out of sync most educational resources are with agents, it was interesting to see what strategies they were deploying for exactly that purpose. 69% still are teaching prompt skills to maximize agent effectiveness, but you also see some more interesting and creative things. 49% said that they're creating agent-specific sandbox environments where employees can practice. 41% said that they're implementing some sort of AI agent shadowing programs where employees observe experts who are working with agents. And 39% said that they're developing role-specific guidelines for effective agent collaboration. Overall, one of the most interesting big banner headline was that 82% of those surveyed agreed that because of AI in the next 24 months, their industry's competitive landscape would look different. I think that that means everything from the potential for new business models, new vectors of competition, to new winners and losers in their sector. The story is very clearly things changing fast, and agents being at the very heart of it. Steve Chase, Vice Chair of AI and Digital Innovation at KPMG, said, "The data shows just how quickly AI agents are moving out of pilots and into production, and that momentum will only accelerate. What makes this moment unique is that leaders increasingly see agents not just as a way to cut costs, but as a way to rethink growth and create new value." Todd Lohr, the head of ecosystems at KPMG, commented, "Our clients are no longer asking if AI will transform their business, they're asking how fast it can be deployed. This isn't just about technology adoption. It's about fundamental business transformation that requires reimagining how work gets done and how it is measured." Now, on that front, one example of an organization going through an AI transformation came from Salesforce CEO Mark Benioff this week. In a recent interview, he claimed that AI is doing 30 to 50% of the work at Salesforce now, referring to roles including software engineering and customer service. Now, of course, we've heard a number of different tech companies claim that AI is now writing 30% or more of their code, but this is the first time that a Fortune 500 company has framed it as AI doing a substantial portion of the work overall. Benioff says that his company's customer service agents have reached 93% accuracy, giving them the ability to take over entire roles. Benioff said, "All of us have to get our head around this idea that AI can do things that before we were doing. We can move on to higher value work." Now, some discussion on X or Twitter suggested that this was an indication of how many people were likely to be displaced, but I think AI creator Matthew Berman had the right of it when he wrote, "Who really thinks Salesforce is going to choose to be stagnant and profit maximize versus expanding the universe of problems they solve and increase total addressable market?" And I think
Stoicide same, like not as an engineer, but as like it takes as long as it takes, right? Like it'll be done when it's done. Bosses love to hear that shit. How long is it going to take you to wire this house? The fuck I know, right? Like broadly, I don't know. Ended up taking me a whole fucking extended period of time because people didn't frame out all the things that need to be framed, and I told you before I came in that, you know, you want to make sure all your framing's done so that I can just go. And then you're surprised when it takes longer than you anticipated because you didn't frame out all the fucking things that need to be fucking framed. What do you want me to do about that? I'm not framing it, right? Like that's not what you paid me to do. You want to pay me to frame? Cool. Understand that my framing skills are decent, but I am not a framer.
I think that this is exactly the case for optimism. Yes, some companies will be rewarded in the short term for cutting costs for the same amount of output, but eventually they're going to be outcompeted by the organizations that reinvest those cost savings and efficiency gains in new models, new opportunities, and just better products and services. Which is not to say that there aren't some serious...
Also, I kind of thought Bored Ape Yacht Club was dead and gone, but apparently they're still out here.
Products and services. Which is not to say that there aren't some serious challenges that remain as we move out of the pilot stage and into the full deployment stage of agents. Speaking at the VentureBeat Transform conference this week, writer CEO May Habib noted some of the challenges that come as agents start to hit scale. She said, agents don't reliably follow rules.
No, not the customer. Like I always set reasonable timelines for the customer, right? And then I add some time on the end. That way I can, you know, if everything goes great, then we're done faster. It's the boss, right? I don't know. Also, is it just me doing it? Well, that's what I do, Reed. I ruin jokes all the time. That's my specialty. If it's just me doing it, then I kind of have a better idea, right? But if you're going to have me use your dudes to help me out, well, That'll depend. Are you guys going to show up? Do they have any idea what they're doing, right? Like any of that kind of stuff. There's a whole bunch of like caveats in that, right? How long would it take me to do this job? A week. How long is it going to take me if you send those 3 dudes that I worked on that last job? 2 weeks, right?
Tools. They're outcome driven, they interpret, they adapt, and the behavior really only emerges in real world environments. She said that companies are having issues adjusting to non-deterministic agents. And this is something that we absolutely have seen even in our own experience at Superintelligent. For one type of our core agent readiness audit, we really have to constrain what the agent does. Because we are scoring the answers, we want them to be asked in a particular way and in a particular sequence. And so we basically have to really constrain the voice agent and how it interacts. You can tell that what it wants to do is interact with what's being said, to jump around the different questions, ask more sub-questions, and basically have more freedom to explore and try to get to the same result. Now, with some of our other types of audits that don't have that scoring system, we allow it more freedom, and you can tell it's a more natural pattern for that agent. But of course, enterprises are going to face similar challenges where they have some things that they just need agents to do in a very prescriptive, rote sort of way, and yet it also remains likely that we will discover even more opportunities if we can put agents in the context where they do have a little bit more freedom to flex. In any case, the story is exactly as the KPMG press release sums up. AI agents are moving beyond experimentation, and leaders are preparing for competitive transformation. For now, that's going to do it for today's AI Daily Brief.
All right, up next, we got a little arc of videos that are going to be like real world use cases. There's a video in here about using AI in your daily life, that kind of stuff. So this is like, if you've wanted more educational, what should I do with this stuff kind of content, we're doing a little arc of that now. So dial in and get your get your note-taking device ready, and feel free to ask for the links to the videos. Otherwise, they'll end up in the Discord as per usual.
Appreciate you listening or watching as always, and until next time, peace.
I can't believe I have to type this because the alert is gone, but AI agents do not have freedom of speech. What up, X1011? It's I can't have an extensive, I got to keep it to 20. The maximum amount is 20, you know what I mean? But I'm sad that you don't have something that you want. This is Journalism AI Toolkit is the name of the channel. Perplexity Tasks is here, how I'm using it to automate my workflow in under 2 minutes. So, again, if you are in the United States and you have if you have a Galaxy phone, a Samsung Galaxy phone, then you can get a free year of Perplexity Pro by, if you have the Perplexity app, deleting the Perplexity app off your phone and downloading the Perplexity app from the Galaxy store. Then you will have Perplexity Pro for 1 year. Or at least that's the way it was recently.
There was a bunch of nothing, gibberish. Flip-flobical, flip-tobological, flip-snobicals. It was a bunch of gibberish, bro.
If you have a Galaxy brain, then you don't need Perplexity Pro X10.
So here we are in Perplexity Pro.
Homie, why are you so quiet?
It's my understanding that this function is only available right now in Perplexity Pro. So you do have to have a Pro account in order to use it. So you just want to go down to your icon here in the bottom, click on it, and then go up to Tasks. Go up to the plus sign, click on it, and drop in your prompt. It is research and summarize the top news stories from the past 24 hours about the supermarket industry. Focus on factual, recent information from reputable news sources, organize findings clearly, yada, yada, yada. I will put this query into the body of the YouTube video here for you. You can also schedule these for daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly. I'm going to do it once a day at, how about we set it for 7 a.m.? I'm going to do deep research because, I wanted to come up with as much information as possible and hit save. And that's pretty much it. That's how you set it up. I'm going to go back to the main screen. It basically just ends up in your typical place where you find all of your query information. So any past prompts that you've put in or questions that you've asked are going to end up here. When you hover over this plus sign, this pops out. You can hit view all, and we'll click on this. Since it's a deep research, it's still working. Here it is. We've got the
Actually, X1011. It's in November. No, sometime in November is the anniversary date. Thought it was November. Is that October? Must be October. October 14th, I have labeled as Judgment Day. So, and like a year ago, yeah, exactly that. So every year I can have Perplexity checked. Has the bubble burst? Has AI collapsed? Is it over yet? And like that. And tomorrow is the 1st of July. Woo!
We've got the final results being written out as we speak.
So that's neat. It was super simple, just that there's a thing in Perplexity Pro that you can set up to do automated research tasks like that. And from a point of view of gathering information, like I do and like Michael does, and Michael puts it into the Discord. This could be another tool to help you do that. It's also another tool, like if you have a particular area of research that you want to pay attention to, right? Maybe you could set it up for weekly, right? Like, so let's say you work a regular ass Monday through Friday job. So Saturday morning, it could collect all the information that might have come out over the past week about your particular area of interest and assemble it into a single document for you, so then you can find it, and keep up to date in whatever your area of interest might be. I prefer to look at AI as if it got no better, it will still turn the world upside down. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a joke at this point, right? It's a meme, cosmic as much as anything else. We haven't even begun to make, like, even if it hadn't improved, if we were still running GPT-4 and none of the reasoning models, that in and of itself, we didn't get a chance to, exploit all that is capable of. And we've already advanced models and everything else. Gemini has this. I tried it and it stopped working on the second day. Huh. Interesting. I wonder why. Did they update the model between the first and second day? Because updating the model is a pain in the ass for me. The downside. You do not enjoy. I get that. I was in Zach Apps earlier today, and somebody said, that they did not like Gemini at all, and Gemini is my primary model that I use for everything. I did see that. Yes. Yeah. According to, is that HR Review? Is that Harvard Review? Or is it just an HR magazine? Excuse me. Alessandra Pacelli, entry-level jobs have declined since ChatGPT launched. Human resources, okay. Yeah. There is way more stuff, I'm telling you. Y'all should be in the Discord if you want to keep up to date, because there's way more content in the Discord than I can get to. And then there's stuff like a video came out, Novara Media, Aaron Bastani talking to Karen Howe about how, the cult-like AI companies. And they could be, right? Like, I don't stand in front of any of the CEOs, and I don't stand in front of any of the companies. The only thing I'm concerned about is the tech, right? And they absolutely could exhibit some kind of cult-like behavior. I do have disagreements with Karen about some of the points she made when we watched Karen on Democracy Now! But this video, Aaron Bastani is the person who wrote Fully Automated Luxury Communism, the book, which I do have a lot of respect for. And this is an interview with Aaron Bastani interviewing and talking with Karen Howe. It's an hour and a half long. You know what I mean? What up, Johnny? It sounds like the best cult going. Oh, absolutely, Crix, absolutely. And that's what I mean when I say I won't stand in front of the CEOs or in front of the companies, right? Like, the capitalist part is the problem, right? Like, what are we going to do once the AI eats the jobs? What are we going to do once the robots eat the jobs, right? Like, we are not set up as a society, and I don't mean as an American society, I mean as a global society, to deal with that level of unemployment. And then shit gets out of whack. And just look at history. What up, Textilian? All right, up next is a video, Prompt Engineering is Dead. What up, Iggy? And that was the thing. I found myself with the update of the models, Michael. It defaulted to Flash, and Flash doesn't have the same capabilities that Pro does, and Pro is what I needed to use. But also the update screwed up my prompt, and I have to do it. It's an option, X1011. You can join the cult, and Sorry. Oh, Stampy boy. Snacks, the snacks are calling. He's just a big sleeper. So it must be nice. Must be so nice. Whoop. Listen.
All right, so prompt engineering is dead, and this is a bold statement, but I'm saying that it never actually existed. And if you've ever done prompt engineering, you probably know that it's kind of bullshit, because you kind of try to ask the LLM to act nicely and do what you want to do what you want it to do. And so this talk, I'm going to walk you through a story of mine where I managed to improve our kind of sample chatbot that we have in our website. And it was possible for me to make it like 5x better without actually doing any prompt engineering, because it's not really engineering, right? And so we have a chatbot in our application, in our website. It's RAG-based, super simple. It just allows you to ask questions about our documentation and it gives you answers. Super simple, super straightforward, the easiest RAG you can think about. And when I deployed it the first time, it worked kind of okay. And I tried to make it work.
I have a robot that does that, Rex. I got an automated food dish that 3 times a day puts out food. Yeah. It wasn't that expensive. It was only like 25, 30 bucks. And the reason that I got it is because they would end up with like stale food in the bottom, so we're wasting food, right? And they would knock it out of the bowl and onto you know them they're like black plastic trays you put like muddy boots on. I've got one of those that sits underneath the food and the water so that anything obviously stays in there. And they would just, you know, because they would dig out this stale food they didn't want to eat and get after the fresh food. And that was, you know, we're wasting food. And I hate wasting food. And it's also, you know, like, I don't want to spend money I don't have to spend. And then I got a little automated water joint as well. Give me one hot second. Do do do. Do do do. Yeah, it was 28 bucks. It's $29.99. White and $27.99 black. Got it off Amazon. And then the water dish. No, I definitely have more items that I ordered. Why don't you tell me about all the items I've ordered? This might be the same one. Yeah, automated water fountain, also 30 bucks. And, you know, that way the water circulates. It comes up through a little stainless steel tube. And cats like water that's, you know, that's moving. It doesn't get filled with crap. It's got a little filter in there, all that kind of shit. And then, like, once a week, you just, you know, scrub it out. And once a month, you change the filter. So yeah, and that way they get, you know, the best. And all the parts are, you can get the replacement parts if anything goes wrong, right off Amazon as well. So
better, and you can see some examples here. I tried to I needed to have him only answer things that are related to Traceloop because this is my company. I don't want, you know, it to answer things about the weather or something else. I wanted to answer about Traceloop only. And I want it to be useful. So if someone asks a question, I want the question to be useful for the user who asked it.
yeah, no, and no problem. And just like you can just Google or you can go on Amazon and use their little AI thing, and it's like, you know, automated food dish under $30, that kind of thing. Yeah, the moving part is huge.
And I wanted to make less mistakes. It was making so many mistakes, and I wanted to just get a little bit better. And so, you know, what are we doing at this stage? We're doing prompt engineering. But why do I even need to iterate on prompts? I just want to give it a couple of examples. This is good, this is bad, and have it somehow learn, you know, how to follow my instructions properly and always. And so I begin imagining, how I want to build this automatically improving machine that will be kind of like an agent that will research the web, find the latest and greatest prompt engineering techniques, and then apply them to my prompt over and over and over again until I get the best prompt for my super simple RAG pipeline. And to do that, to run this kind of machine, I needed to do a bit more work, right? Because you've all been in a lot of conversations here about evaluators, so you know that we need an evaluator so that crazy machine can actually know how to improve and if it's actually improving. And so to do that, I need to create a data set of like questions I want to ask my chatbot about the documentation. And then I want to build an evaluator that can evaluate how well my RAG pipeline is responding to those questions. And then I have the agent that kind of like iterating on the prompts until I get to the best prompt ever. And so this is kind of like how it will look like schematically, right? I have the RAG pipeline, I have the evaluator, and then I'm going to have my auto-improving agent. Let's begin. RAG pipeline, super simple. Have a Chroma database, have an OpenAI, and some simple prompts that take a user question, find relevant documents in the Chroma database, and just output an answer.
And you don't need to go that deep, right? Your database simply could be, a bunch of PDFs that you have on file, or shit like that, like fucking a collection of recipes that your grandmother put together, and you took pictures of them with a like with Gemini or with ChatGPT. You took pictures, had to convert the handwriting into text, had that text saved to a document, and then you can store all that information, and then you could have it like iterate off that, right? Like, your grandmother used to make this sauce, and your grandmother used to make this, whatever the fuck else, and you like chicken parm, right? And their sauce, and you could ask like your prompt could be something along the lines of like combining these different recipes in a new way, and then you construct something like chicken parm lasagna, right? And then you could make that chicken parm lasagna, and then if your grandmother is still still around, then you could bust out your chicken parm lasagna, and your grandmother could be like, holy shit, right? Because it's something that maybe they had not thought of before. I'm a heretic, X1011. I heretic all over the place.
So you'll see, I'm just this super simple one. I just ask it a question: how do I get started with trace loop? And then it runs, takes a couple of seconds, and then we're going to see an answer, and we're going to see the trace. Just so if you've never seen a RAG pipeline, and I'm guessing you also a RAG pipeline, this is how it looks like, right? A couple of calls to OpenAI, Chroma database, and then at final stage we get like all the context into OpenAI, and we get the final answer to the user. Works great, and we have a couple of prompts here we probably want to optimize. Wait, this is not what I wanted to do. Great. Okay, now let's go to the next step, my evaluator. So what do we need for evaluations? This is not a talk about evaluators. I'm sure you've heard a lot of talks about evaluators in this conference, but I'm going to tell you what kind of evaluator.
And this is a good channel because this is AI Engineer. Everything on this channel is that, right? Is this kind of talk. And they're all from the companies, they're all sponsored by AWS and Microsoft and all that kind of. What up, Digital? I just got here and am now comparing training a RAG to modifying your grandmother's recipe to augment the flavor towards your preference. I don't know if that's what you were talking about, though. Sure. Like, specifically, I was thinking about, like, combining different recipes in a new way. But yours, like, maybe you like a lot of garlic. You're a heavy garlic person. Maybe you don't like a particular kind of cheese. You know what I mean? Yeah, you're good.
Did I choose to use? So first, you need a data set of questions and,
exactly.
and a way to evaluate these questions. And then the evaluator is going to kind of invoke the RAG pipeline and then get answer from the RAG pipeline, and then going to kind of evaluate and get a score, maybe a reason why the score is low or high. And then this is kind of what we're going to use for the agent, will be the last step that can auto-improve the prompt. And so, there's a lot of types of evaluators. I think we've been talking a lot about LLM as a judge, and spoiler alert, I'm going to choose an LLM as a judge here because it's easier to build and it's easier to deploy. But there are also a lot of different types of evaluators, kind of like classic NLP metrics. If you want to do something which is embedded based or all of these colors that can also help you evaluate different types of tasks, like translation tasks and even text summarization tasks. And I think the main difference that I see between classic NLP metrics and LLM as a judge is that classic NLP metrics usually require some ground truth. And so I need to have my questions and then the actual.
I mean, yes, Crix, you just might want to prep. Here's the thing. If you use passive-aggressive prompts with a human being, they are going to react however they're going to react, right? And you can say, hey, this is just the way I am. I don't really mean to be a dick. This is just how I am. And they are still going to react however they are going to react, right? But the AI, you can tell it, look, this is just the way I am. Please don't take it personal in whatever way the AI can take it personal. And don't I'm not looking for you to give back the same kind of passive aggressive snark that I'm giving you. It's just how I communicate. And the AI will be like, okay, buddy, I'm with you.
Answers. And then if I have the actual answers, when I'm invoking my RAG pipeline, I can actually get, I can compare the ground truth answer against.
I think, in a way, you're not wrong, X1011, but what I think he's talking about is automating prompt engineering, right? That'll be a day, won't it, Digital?
Whatever the RAG pipeline return. Great. And then the LLM as a judge.
Also, right, I almost want, and I'm going to show you. So this is my workflow, such as it is, right? Whoop. AI, right? So there's AI, but it's all over the place. So I got to set my filters, right? And I got to set a filter. So I wanted this week, right? And then I wanted 4 to 20 minutes to get rid of most of the, the slop, as it says. And I'm scrolling down here, and here's a Glenn Beck video. Is AI now uncontrollable? Here's Eurodollar University, which sounds like a particular fucking thing. Here's Julia McCoy, leader of a fucking cult. Here's Pyro Live, whoever the hell that is, talking about the glass cutting ASMR videos, right? All the normies getting on the wave, right? AI music scam. I have an AI girlfriend. Here's one with value to me. Fucking man carrying thing. 12-minute video on AI slop and the epidemic of bad writing. Somebody doing a video about racist AI videos flooding TikTok, which may or may not be a thing. But I would not be surprised, right? Here's some news. We like news. Here's AI Copium. We watched one of their videos before. I'm looking for something in particular that I saw earlier. But you can see all the different, there are some that are full-on AI Code King type videos. But then there's other people who are doing AI because it's a way that you can get content, Pivot to AI is anti AI. They do the fucking Ed Zitron model. Can AI stop the next plane crash? There's a lot of, how you can make this AI trailer made me $1,000, right? Which makes more money, right? Like all sorts of crap like that. First you look at whatever the video title is, and then you look at what the name of the channel is, and you can usually pick it up. Like Delaware Sasquatch with 2 babies. This is like, what the fuck? There's Rathbone. There was one in particular, I'm looking for it. There it is. Even density out here doing that thing. AI relationships will destroy society. If anyone knows how relationships could destroy society. What up, Ben? Yeah, no, like, I understand why people are here. They're here for the cat. They're not here for me. Oh.
Can work with ground truth. Sometimes you can build a judge that can judge an answer based on some real answer that you expect, but they can.
Yeah, digital. Oh, I hate it here. Told you. As soon as he hears the sound come out of my mouth, X1011 is on that shit. Or they, I actually don't know. Digital, we kind of briefly touched on it. It doesn't appear to be a large issue. I mean, obviously, anyone going through that kind of thing, it's a large issue for them and the family, and et cetera, et cetera. But as far as, like, is it a widespread issue? It doesn't really feel to be so, but it's something that people focus on, right? Like, as an example of why AI bad and like that, as opposed to we are letting people, our fellow human beings down by not paying attention to when they are, losing touch with reality. What up, trans women? CEO trans women. New schedule, new Globus.
They can also try to assess an answer just based on like the question and the context without any ground truth. For my example, because I know the data set and I know everything, I'm going to build a ground truth-based LLM as a judge. But before we're going to do that, I'm going to talk to you about where can we run these evaluators, right? So if we have an evaluator, what can we evaluate? I'm saying that I want to evaluate my RAG pipeline, but what exactly do I mean? So a RAG pipeline is basically 2 steps, right? We get the data from the vector database, and we run the call OpenAI with some context from the vector database. So we can kind of evaluate each step separately. You can evaluate each one, and we kind of call it like a unit testing, right?
If any of this is a little much for you, if it's a little too technical, I understand. It's only another 7 minutes. Just kind of let the stuff you don't understand wash over you. That kind of thing.
We can even evaluate how well the vector database is fetching the data that I need to answer the question. Or I can run it on like the complete execution of the RAG. I can take the input, the question, and take the answer, the final answer that I'm getting from the RAG pipeline, and just evaluate how well the answer is given that question. And I can also dive deeper into everything that's happening in the internals, look at the context, look at the question, look at the answer, and everything all together, try to evaluate, given the context and given the question, how well is the answer performing. So again, I'm going to do a simple LLM as a judge, and I'm going to take 20 examples of questions that I've created. And for each question, I'm going to write, what do I expect the answer to contain? So it's going to have like 3 facts that the answer that was generated by the RAG pipeline should have. And then the evaluator is simply going to take the answer that we've gotten from the RAG pipeline and make sure that the facts actually appear in the answer. And so we're going to get, per each fact, we're going to get pass or fail. So it's a Boolean response, and then a reason. So if it failed, I want to see a reason, like why the judge thinks that the fact does not appear in the answer that we got. And so then we're going to get a score, which is numeral, which is great because we like working with numeral scores, which is kind of like summarizing all the facts across all the examples. So we have 3 facts times 20 examples, it's 60 60 total facts that we need to evaluate. I'm going to just check how many facts were right out of the total facts that we expected to have in the RAG-generated answers.
And fundamentally, like, we're definitely, as X711 pointed out, he is prompt engineering, but he is not prompt engineering. He is having the AI handle the prompt engineering, which, same, right? Like, I have a more manual way of doing it. But yeah, I don't prompt engineer. I use AI to prompt engineer because the AI is going to be able to ask for the things better than I can, in my opinion. The other thing, one of the biggest concerns when it comes to AI is hallucinations, right? Like, I don't want inaccurate information if I'm doing accurate information, right? Like, if I'm doing creative, I want hallucinations. I want it to fucking do whatever, right? But if I'm doing, like, I need the facts, then I want fact-based shit. And this process is developing prompts that are the best at providing that, and it's using an AI to evaluate the accuracy of the information that's getting out. You're pre-prompting and having GPT Gemini, but yes, absolutely, that's what I'm doing. It's the way to go, in my opinion, right? I did not. But that's good. That is excellent.
So let's say it in action. And as you can see, this is like the questions and the facts and everything.
I mean, exactly. There was we opened up with an AI video that actually talked about the NBA championships. I mean, you got to remember, the thing about the Achilles injury is it was bad enough that it killed Achilles.
This is what I created to make sure that the RAG operates, and then I'm going to run it, the evaluator. And what you'll see is that the evaluator is running evaluations, right? So it's taking a question, calling the RAG, getting an answer, and then checking that answer against each of the facts that I've given it. And then I'm going to create a score, and you'll see the score, slowly progressing as I'm running the.
For the sports ball aspect, I want to see more AI in the NFL, right? Like, I want first downs decided, not necessarily like decided by AI, maybe. I don't know. Like, I want to remove the refs out of the equation. I want ground facts, you know what I mean? When it comes to that kind of shit, because that's where the arguments come up. And on one hand, I understand why they might not want to do that, because that drives enragement engagement, right? Like, there is nothing when you get a Chiefs fan out there talking and like going up against fucking like a Bills fan, they will absolutely tell you about the refs. You know what I mean? And how the refs have maybe have decided games. I don't know. All the cameras angles I've seen are awkward. So I don't know. But like, having a ball that's able to track whether it crosses the first down marker sounds like a no-brainer to me. Yeah, and as a Raiders fan, that's twice a year. So yeah.
Evaluator. This is like a super.
What a T-minus.
Slow process, and I don't have enough time to actually show you it till the end, but it works. It takes just a couple of minutes.
The goat.
Okay. Okay. And. Okay. Great. Last step is our agent, the agent that will optimize the prompt. We have everything set up. Now we can actually build the agent. So I'm going to build a resource.
And at this point in time, I'm going to assume, unless corrected otherwise, trans women, that they got consent from the estate of Jim Fagan to do that kind of stuff. And if so, then no one should have any complaints. You know what I mean? What up, Poodlehawk? Yeah, because that seems to be like zero. Like there is always going to be people who complain about the AI or whatever, and I'm just not having that conversation. But like, if they got consent, there should be no problem. Ergo, there should be no problem. Right? We should not have to have a conversation. If you don't like it, that's an aesthetic choice, and that's entirely up to you. But as long as they, as long as they, exactly. So you know what? I don't care. They got consent. The family said it's okay. It's okay. Shut up. Go away.
Researcher agent, and it's going to take, as I said, like prompting guides online. It's going to crawl the web. It's going to find prompting guides. It's going to get an initial prompt, and then it's going to take, it's going to run the evaluator once to get like the initial score. And then if we get the initial score, it's going to get the reasons why we failed some of the evaluations. It's going to combine the reasons for failures plus prompting guides to get a new prompt. And then we're going to get a new prompt. And then we're going to feed it back to the evaluator, run it again, get a new score, and then run it again with the agent so we can actually even improve the score a bit more. If you've ever done kind of classic ML training, this is kind of like a classic machine learning training, but with a bit of vibes.
Again, I was over at Zach's earlier this morning, and he was watching a video. They were whining about the Google commercials, and they were whining about how it's machine learning, it's not real AI, and all that kind of crap. And it's just like they don't have anything. They don't have anything. All the arguments are the same fucking arguments, and it's just people picking that low-hanging fruit. AI sports news absolutely would be wild, right? Like, one of the things about sports news is if you're a fan of sport, you probably are not a fan of all sport. Like, I can give a fuck about tennis and golf. Some of you care about tennis and golf. So if I got my sports news, I would love to just be about the sports and teams that I actually care about, right? That's what I want. And with a nice voice and with VO3 kind of technology, give me my personalized sports news, you know what I mean? And I get it. Like, it is what it is, right? Like, I don't give a shit if you enjoy, like people like hockey, people like lacrosse. There are so many sports you can be a fan of. Some people like competitive swimming. Some people like gymnastics. Some people are fan of the Olympics. All that kind of shit.
So let's see it in action. I've used the Crew AI for doing that. And I'm going to kick off. And you can see it will take a couple of seconds. We can actually see the agent thinking and then calling the evaluator. And then the evaluator will run and get the responses and get a score. And I hope I can, that's great. It's running the evaluators. It's calculating the score. And then the agent is running back. That I skipped a couple of minutes here, and then we got a response. And then now the researcher agent, is trying to understand, okay, why the prompt wasn't working? Can I find ways to improve RAG pipeline-based prompts? And then it's going to like regenerate new kind of like a prompt with maybe a bit more instructions or kind of best practices on how to write prompts. And then you see, calling the evaluator again to get a new score, so we know if we need to optimize or not. Great. Okay, this is when I run it once. Actually, the initial score was okay, was 0.4. And I ran it just 2 iterations, and I got like a long kind of.
This is on a scale of 0 to 1, right? So that's why 0.4 is a good score, 40%, right? Basically, and then the improved score is 90%.
Prompt that you expect to see from someone who's done a lot of prompt engineering is like give it a lot of instructions and telling it how it should react and how it shouldn't. You're like an expert in answering users' questions about trace loop. It was really nice to see it happening without me having to. I wrote a lot of code to make the agent work, but I didn't need to do a lot of prompt engineering. I didn't need to do any prompt engineering, right? So it kind of worked. It was really, really nice, and the score actually jumped by a lot. And I stopped at 0.9 because it means that like 90% of the facts were correct. Great, I can stop. So if there's something you want to get out of this talk is that you can also vibe engineer your prompts. You don't need to manually iterate in prompts. You just need to build evaluators, and then you kind of can.
And that's what I do, right? Like I vibe prompt engineer, for lack of a better term. I tell, like I say what I want, and then Gemini gives me a prompt, and I run the prompt, and then I take the result back to Gemini, and it didn't work, it did work, it did this, it didn't do that, and whatever, and then I let Gemini fix the problem, and then I do it again, and then, and in the meantime, I'm doing other stuff that Gemini can't do. I let Gemini do what Gemini can do. I let Globus do what Globus can do, and we're all have a better time for it.
Run gradient ascend on your evaluator. So you have your score, you can kind of slowly try to optimize on your score, either automatically with an agent like I did, or manually by just like reading those manuals about how to write the best prompts and then fixing them again and again and again. Some future thoughts to wrap it up. We have 2 minutes, okay? Am I overfitting? So I have 20 examples, and then I run the evaluators. So maybe the prompt that I'm getting will work really well for those 20 examples, but then if I give it like another example, it will be horrible. So yes, I was overfitting that because I just gave it the entire 20 examples. Ideally, would have more examples, and then kind of like, again, classic machine learning, split it into train test sets or train test eval sets, and then run them like separately, right? You take the train set, this is what you're trying to optimize, but then you also use the test set to make sure that you're not overfitting to your training data set, right? So you don't want to give the optimizer too much context unless it just will know how to answer those specific questions and nothing else. I told you that prompt engineering is dead, but I've actually done a lot of prompt engineering for this demo because I needed to engineer the agent that is.
That's a good question, Michael, and exactly what I was thinking. I'm wondering if there's a way that I could engineer, like using the tasks and stuff. And again, this is where my deficiencies as a coder and as a software engineer really show out, right? Because maybe there's a thing where like I can have the the AI write to a file, and then another AI or an iteration of that same AI access the file and use that file to generate the things and so on and so forth. So like there's a when I'm sitting here and I'm listening, half my brain is thinking, you know what I mean? What up, Pharaoh? It's part of what I like. If I'm hanging out with friends, I have my little game open on my phone so that I can deactivate a portion of my brain that like requires a certain kind of stimulation, and so I can engage in the conversation. And then also there's a third section of my brain that's thinking about shit, because I'm always thinking about shit. I can't not think about shit. It's annoying as fuck.
Optimizing my prompts. So it was horrible. But I've done a lot of prompt engineering for that. Maybe I can.
I believe that he did. Trace loop is the name of the thing. Let's find out if it's publicly available. Yeah. You can try it for free. It has pricing. Up to 50K, free forever, that kind of thing. And if you want it on an enterprise level, then you got to talk to somebody. But it's 50,000 spans a month. I don't know if that's a lot or a little. Up to 5 seats, etc., etc. So sometimes maybe goose, sometimes maybe sheep.
Also, do this work for the evaluator prompts or even for the agent prompt? It's kind of like this meta talk where who's even writing prompts here? Like, I'm using the agent to optimize itself. Maybe it will work, maybe it won't. I might try it some weekend. It's kind of interesting. Some links, you can try this out. It's available in our repo. It's traceloop/auto prompting demo, and you can run it. It should run. I tested it yesterday. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask me outside, or you can even book some time with me just by not clicking this link, but just following this link. Thank you very much.
All right, up next, 101 ways to use AI in your daily life. 101 is a lot, and I'm not sure if there used to be a series of books called 101 Ways to Do Thing, right? And that might be what this is. Well, let's find out.
Here are 101 ways to use AI in your daily life, too.
How about you start by using AI to fucking increase your volume and shit? How about that?
Hopefully make your life easier, happier, and more productive. I'll be splitting this video roughly into different life areas, starting off with general productivity, then work productivity, day-to-day life stuff, personal finances, learning things, career/business, relationships, and then finally miscellaneous ones.
And this is only 14 minutes, so that's why I'm not sure if they're going to get to 101 ways to do the thing, but, you know, maybe.
That I cannot categorize. A portion of this video is sponsored by HubSpot. Before we get started, I do want to give a quick overview of the tools that I'll be showing in
And we have watched a couple of her videos before.
this video. On a day-to-day basis, I tend to stick to a few foundational models and products as opposed to buy subscriptions for like very specialized products. Because honestly, if you're good at prompt engineering, you can get a lot out of these general products. Which, by the way, if you want to get better at, I have a video linked over here, and if you can complete it, you will be better than like 98% of people at prompt engineering. Anyways, I categorize the tools into 3 categories. The first category is chatbots, and I like to stick to ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude. The second category is agents/specialized apps. In this category includes Madness, which is a generalized AI agent that can do a lot of things. Perplexity, which I like to think of it as like ChatGPT plus search. It's like a specialized AI app for search. Notebook LN is going to be an app that shows up a lot in the learning category. NA10 for designing agentic workflows. And OpenAI's Agents SDK for building agents with code. And third category is vibe coding tools. I often like to vibe code like little apps and things myself as opposed to having to pay for like different subscriptions. And it's really not that hard, I promise. So there are a lot of different vibe coding tools. And if you're a beginner, I would recommend starting off with something like Lovable or Bolt. If you're more intermediate, then transition into maybe Replit or Firebase Studio, which is also free. And if you are more advanced, you can go with Cursor, Windsurf, or Claude Code. So me personally, because I do have a coding background, I tend to stick with Cursor, Windsurf, as well as Claude Code. But don't worry, you don't need to know how to code in order to use these tips and tricks and use cases I'm going to show you. I'm going to start off with simple but still very powerful use cases before going to more advanced use cases like using agents and vibe coding your own apps. So I promise there will be a little bit of something for everybody, and hey, maybe you'll be inspired to learn some of the new tools once you see the cool things that you can do with it. To keep the video snappy, I'm not going to go super in depth for each of these use cases. I will put on screen the tool that I'm using. Now without further ado, let's go. Starting off with general productivity. Starting off with a very simple use case, but I literally do this like multiple times a day. And that is just taking pictures of objects and asking AI to identify them. Like, what is this flower? Can I eat this mushroom? And that's a cool shoe. What shoe is it? You can also upload pictures and ask ChatGPT to help you fix things. For example, a few months ago, my toilet started leaking. So I just took a picture of the toilet and
And this kind of behavior was one of the things that snarky video I saw over at Zach's earlier today indicated was a problem. That what actually you should be doing is Googling and getting very in depth on whatever it is you want to know. And to a certain extent, I believe that to be somewhat true, right? Like you should, in my opinion, there's some basic plumbing that every single one of you should know how to do if you have the physical capability to do it, right? One of them is this, right? The back of the toilet, underneath the sink, changing out a P-trap, cleaning a P-trap, all that kind of stuff. There's a bunch of basic stuff that by knowing how to do it, you can save yourself a bunch of money. This right here, this float rod thing here, this is the ball cock, right? If you need hey, read, then you're batting 1,000. You turn off the water, right? You drain the you drain the tank, and you unscrew. There's a screw, like a nut basically on the bottom, and you're able to remove the ball cock from your tank. A new ball cock costs like $15, right? And like that's much that's much less than the $60 it would cost, plus the 15, plus whatever else, for a plumber to come out and do it for you. You know? So like these are the kind of skills that having and the AI can help walk you through it. $15 ball cocks, come get them. Get them while the cocks. And also, if you have this type where it's got the float on the end, and once it fills up to its maximum height position, if your toilet continues to run for some reason, you just grab this bar in both hands and just give it a little bend and just move the the float ball. Most ball cocks are standard size unless you have some weird, otherworldly kind of toilet. But you just give it a little bend and it'll do the thing. The problem that happens is the switch inside here that controls the water flow will fail. And if the switch inside here that controls the water flow fails, there's nothing you can do about that. You have to replace the the entirety of the ball cock. Ball cock.
Ask which lever I should be moving around and in which direction, and it worked. You can upload device manuals for AI-assisted troubleshooting and guidance. Do very specific and targeted searches that are better than Google. Like, what kind of financial assets should I be investing in if I'm a Canadian currently living in Hong Kong and making US dollars? The best AI agents released in the past 6 months for solo founders managing client work. Create travel itineraries that are connecting together multiple destinations. Like, I want to explore Hong Kong from Wan Chai today from 9 a.m. until 10 p.m. Suggest a route that hits 3 hidden coffee shops to work from, a sea view, and ends at a night market, all by foot or tram. Use structured frameworks to guide very specialized responses. Like if
it's a variety channel at its heart. Yes, it's foundationally AI, robots, future tech, automation, but like I learned stuff, right? Like, and the whole reason I have to learn stuff is because I don't like giving other people my money. And if I can do it myself, then I'm gonna do it myself. P-traps. P-traps are, you got to look at what a P-trap is. This is an under-sink P-trap. Right? Give me an image. How does it work? How does it work? Right? This is a P-trap. Can you give me a bigger picture? P-trap anatomy. Yeah. Your shit's in the way. All right. I hope that's as big as. So, the way that a P-trap works is you've got this pipe, right? This is where your sewer pipe is, right? And all the nasty water. True, Michael. All the nasty water goes down, right? But the thing is that you can build up sewer gases, and sewer gases are stank, and in some cases can actually be poisonous. So out the top of your building, whatever it is, whether it's a house or a apartment, is a vent, right? Like at the top, and the gas can escape out the top. And the nasty water can go away. But what you don't want is it to come out your sink or come out your toilet or any of that kind of stuff, your tub. And so what the P-trap does is it fills with a certain amount of water due to fluid dynamics, and it will prevent the gas from being able to get back up into your house. This is also where a lot of clogs happen, is it when soap and hair or in a kitchen, fat, food products, particles, whatever crap gets in, it settles in the bottom of the P-trap. And over time, like every other fluid dynamic situation, it begins to build on top of itself. right? And then, your piece of hair gets caught and it gets some soap on it, and then it gets caught up with some other hair and more soap and gunk. And then the next thing you know, you've got a clog and your sink isn't draining. What do? Well, it's got this little nut up here, right? And a little nut down here. And these are basically hand tight, right? You're not trying to crank them down super tight because you'll shred it because it's built out of plastic. And you put a bucket underneath the P-trap and you unscrew the one, you unscrew the other, you take the P-trap off, and you take it to another sink and rinse it out with hot water and dump out whatever gunk is in there into the bucket and throw that in the garbage so you're not putting it back into your system that you're cleaning. And then you just go ahead and reattach that and good to go. You could be in and out with cleaning out a P-trap in less than 15 minutes, right? And this is, if you go look in your bathroom sink, if you go look in your kitchen sink, you're going to find one of these. Probably there's an S trap, and that's a different scenario. That means the pipe goes down as opposed to going to the side, but it's functionally all the same. Getting hair stuck in your P trap can be painful, but yeah, this is how it works. It's actually super easy. And if you need to get a replacement for some reason because, like, you did accidentally tighten down too much and you shredded the what you call it's on the screw bit, then you go to your hardware store and they're like less than $5 to get all the parts you need, and they come in a bag, and it's a common part and it's really easy to do. And then, and now you don't have to pay somebody to come to your fucking house, $60 plus the cost of the thing, and all that other shit. And you can help out your friends who weren't here for this show.
Evaluating startup ideas by using Alex Hormozi's 4-part $100 million offer framework. Organizing different tasks to do by using an Eisenhower matrix. Use first principles thinking to evaluate the assumptions that you have. Like, is it actually true that you need to go to the gym to get fit? Or that you need to make more money to save money? When I'm sitting in a meeting or a lecture that has some sort of slides or presentation, I like to take pictures of the slides and ask ChatGPT to compile them together and summarize. And if you actually record a presentation in video form, you can upload that video into Google AI Studio, where it's able to process it and generate transcripts and do anything you want with it too. This also works with any type of videos, including YouTube videos. I do this a lot with YouTube videos. Get purchase recommendation.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I like Gemini, is because it has the capability of accessing YouTube. So I can just drop a link and it can look at the video and tell me about the video. Not just transcripts, right? Like, because we found that out a few months ago. It was actually looking at the video and actually was able to tell us the colors of certain frames within the video, which is not something that would show up in the transcript. So that was really cool.
And product research assistance, like which running shoe should I buy? What are some tripod suggestions? If it's something I care a lot about and I want to dig deeper into, I would turn on deep research. Like, what are the most in-demand tech careers that don't require coding but still involve AI? Compare and contrast Eastern and Western models of medicine. Perplexity is amazing at curating news from all the different types of sources, including social media. Now let's move on to work productivity. I really like to start my days by rambling about all the things that I think I have to do, and then asking ChatGPT to actually organize it and prioritize it into a to-do list. Because my to-do list unfortunately often have like 10 to 20 different items, whenever I have to switch context and work on something else, I always like to ask AI to bookmark that task and generate a summary and action item. So when I go back to that work stream, I can jump in immediately. Summarize meetings, check emails for you and summarize those too. Write emails, write reports, pretty much write everything. And the times in which I actually start to write something, I would ask it to edit for grammar, for clarity, and for changing the tone, like say from casual to professional. Using AI for structured brainstorming with different levels of depth. This is called answers leveling and is a really powerful tool to get more creative, specific ideas. Here's an example on screen. You usually want to ask AI to do level 3 or level 4. I also love using the voice function.
And that thing with the changing tone on your emails and whatnot can be very helpful if you're sending emails in a professional space. My friend uses ChatGPT to do exactly that. They'll write the bones of the email and then have ChatGPT turn it into a professional email. But then, and this is what the people who make those low-hanging fruit anti-AI videos don't conceive of, it blows their tiny little fucking minds, is that he then reads it, right? So that he understands how it changed the tone. And he gets that context put back into his brain. So he's learning something, right? This is a process. And now that he's learned something, he can, like, if another email he's doing that same thing with doesn't have the right tone that he's trying to get based on the other one, then he can ask, can you make it more this? Can you make it more that? Et cetera, right? Like, this is the thing, is just because you have the AI give you an output doesn't mean you are prevented from learning. You just need to care about learning, right? And you just need to pay attention to what the output is teaching you.
Functionality for brainstorming and thinking through problems. For example, literally earlier today, I was talking to ChatGPT about different ways that we can improve our AI agents bootcamp or other products that the audience might like. Voice practice.
And I just love how the AI closed captions keeps getting ChatGPT incorrect, and it's like ChatGPT.
For negotiation skills and scenarios, like role-playing a tough conversation you might be having with your boss or negotiating your salary. I don't know about you, but I hate those little menu items and having to click on different things to get to like a specific feature to click. So now I just take photos of the interface. Like, which of these 20 tools can I use to blur things? Like, how do I remove this object on Photoshop? If it's more complex, you can also use Google AI Studio's real-time streaming feature, and you can share your screen and ask AI to direct you to go through all the steps as well. So currently I have this picture in Photoshop, and I want to remove the turtle on this very back of the image. How do I do that?
You will want to use the lasso tool to draw a selection around the turtle in the very back.
Okay, I did that. Now what?
This will remove the turtle and try to fill the area with what's around it.
And then I can just click OK. There you go. Really fast way to create tutorials too. Real-time streaming.
Right? This is an example of how you can do like, if you are concerned about not doing enough to the art to make it art to satisfy the conditions of some other person out there who needs you to do more work in order for the art to be a particular level of art, right? Is you can use the AI to help you do the thing like she just did, right? Like, where you can generate a picture and then learn to use the tools through the AI tool. Again, Google's AI Studio is free $99. Right? This is Google's AI Studio. And this stream feature here, right? You can talk, you can have it use your webcam, or you can share your screen, right? And then you can click this to if you have a video you want to upload, you can do it that way. And if you share your screen, you can use share screen with any piece of software that you have. And Gemini can look through all the documentation and know where all the stuff is. So, like, if you want to learn through the process of learning as opposed to watching a video, which is going to tell you a bunch of stuff that you might not be interested in at that point in time. So you are going to be less engaged. Where if it's teaching you stuff that you actually care about at that point in time, and you're able to do a combination of classroom and lab at the same time, now your associative memory is kicking in and you are engaged because, look, I'm actually changing this picture in real time to do the thing that I want to do. And, oh, that didn't work the way that I wanted it to do. So have Gemini teach you why it didn't do the thing that you wanted it to do. Like, this is... I just realized that the reason some people are so mad about AI in schools is due to the fact that it exposes the major flaws in the education system. If we continuously move to more AI integration, that means students will actively have to learn to communicate nuanced and interesting ideas from the human perspective. That means you can't bullshit papers to fit a word count. Also weeds out the people that used hyper-verbose language to misdirect or overly flood pieces. This was a very, very, very good book. I enjoyed this book very, 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 very much. My very, very favorite character.
Is also great for real-time narration. Like, actually for work, I had to watch this football game and figure out what was happening, and I know nothing about football, so I just asked AI to narrate what was happening for me.
Player in black is on the ground. The score is now Arsenal 0, West Ham 1.
Translate between different languages. You can do this through text to pictures, audio, and video. Analyze large PDF documents and ask it to extract specific relevant information. Great when you have to go through massive reports. I did this recently with the Claude 4 release report that was over 100 pages long. Create product requirement documents for features and products that you want to make. Create presentations and slides. Claude and Manus are freaking amazing at this. Screen and analyze resumes or whatever other documents, just stick it all in there. Then you can extract information and ask it to organize it into tables. Also great if you're like me and you like to take really, really messy notes. Like literally to make this video, for the past couple of weeks, I had been noting down all the different things that I've been using AI for, and it's all like ugly and messy, and I just combined them all together into a nice list. Extract and transform data from various sources. You can mix audio, video, numerical data, unstructured data, and just ask AI to combine them together neatly. Then you can format and export data in any way that you want. That can be CSV forms, video forms, audio forms, text form, lists, tables, even as graphs and visualizations and infographics. And to take it a step even further, you can ask Claude to create an interactive dashboard.
I imagine that they would, or at least a percentage of them would, like any other community. That would make sense, Chef.
For you. For example, I have ones for custom financial dashboards for tracking income and expenses, data visualizations, and key performance metrics. Use AI to create documentation for processes, like operational processes, and technical documentation too. Make digital clones of yourself or other people with permission. Use Manus to create your website. Create fully deployed websites. Create a calculator for anything, like calculating housing and mortgage rates, how much money you should be investing, meal prep budgets, macronutrients, sleep debt, caffeine tolerance, literally anything. Now something a little bit more advanced. Remember how I said earlier you can use Perplexity to do search and research about pretty much anything? Perplexity also does have an API where you can create workflows and do these searches and research in bulk. And you can do this completely with no code. For example, you can upload a Google Sheets with all the tools that you want to research. Get Perplexity to do the research for all of these different tools and summarize it for you. You can even pipe it along to different tools to do other things too. As you can see, there are all these ways of using AI, but it would only work if you're good at prompt engineering. So if you're looking to start improving your prompting skills, I highly recommend that you check out this free prompt engineering quick start guide that I made in collaboration with HubSpot Media. It includes a
little
step-by-step
HubSpot
guide to
commercial.
creating great AI prompts.
Dan, she's going all in. I need
My
to be
favorite
better.
part is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
there's a flow
and
from
that's the
good
thing.
bad
Yeah,
to good to
another thing is that
show
you
how
don't
you
know
can
what
improve
you
a
don't
prompt. And if
know,
you can
right?
think like this, you'll
You
be so
don't
much
know
better
what
at
you don't
prompting
know.
and be so much more productive at everything that you do. So do check it out at this link over here, also linked in description. Thank you so much, HubSpot Media, for creating this free resource with me to empower people to learn AI. And for
I guess where I'm a bit confused is, would the 2-sentence overviews for video work better through AI Studio as opposed to standard Gemini chat session? I don't think that there would be that big a difference, because this is still Gemini, right? Over here is where you choose your model, right? And your models are going to be different because this is tied to my Google account. So the fact that I'm paying for Gemini, also what I found out, because I ended up getting a new phone. I have a S25 Ultra now, because they offered to pay off the rest of what their free phone, the S23 base model, and also $800 towards the thing. So that, and I was paying $20 a month for Gemini. Now I'm paying $10 a month through Verizon for Gemini. So if you have Verizon, and possibly other ones as well, I don't know. I only know Verizon. But Verizon, $10 a month. I saved half the month. Have I read the EULA? Oh, I don't give a shit if Verizon reads my prompts. I just don't care. I am not data conscious. I'm already out here fucking there's a program called Google Rewards. I am secure. I do security stuff, but I don't like. They're gonna get my data coming and going. There's an app, Google Opinion Rewards, that you can use where, like, if you go someplace, if you do something, if you use Google, they'll send you questions about the thing that you did or where you went, all that kind of shit. And I currently have a balance of over $14. Yeah, yeah. But that's data, right? Like, in this is the most ethical, like, data experience that I think is out there. You know what I mean? Like, this is more of what I want to see. You know, give me some money, right? Doesn't have to be a huge amount of money, but, you know, give me some fucking money. Like, if I could answer enough surveys or whatever to get free Gemini, that sounds great, right? But I don't assume that the even the, like, is open AI, you know, not using my prompts and queries and everything else to train the next generation of, you know, open AI's models. They say they're not, right? You can uncheck that box. How would I know, right? Like, that's ultimately the thing. And if I don't know, what's the difference? So, that kind of thing. Prolific? No, but I will check that out. I'm on YouGov and the other one, the Google one. The app? Or do you got to go to a website? Must have to go to a website. Then you do prolific fitness coaching. Always be careful that you're downloading the correct app. Right? Always, always, always be sure you're downloading the correct app.
Sponsoring this portion of the video. Now, back to the video. I like to vibe code small automations. And if you give an API key to Manus, it's usually able to do some types of automations very easily, like scraping my YouTube comments. If you're a bit more comfortable with code, you can also vibe code these automations, like scheduling cron jobs to update certain files or run different programs. Automate sending out emails to a lot of different people by vibe coding a script for Gmail. Instead of paying for specialized app, I also vibe code my own apps, like a Pomodoro timer tracking app, my very own finance tracker app, an app where I can upload and search through all of my favorite prompts. Because we also work with consulting clients, I often vibe code demos as well. And finally, building agentic workflows and full-on AI agents. I like NAN for no code and OpenAI's Agents SDK for code implementations. So many different use cases: lead generation, lead automation, prototyping, customer service, querying databases, generating reports, invoice management, survey management, scanning security, etc, 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 etc. Anything you can possibly think of. I have entire videos going through agent fundamentals and how to build agents. And just FYI, I do also run a agents bootcamp where I teach you all about agents and you build at least 4 agents throughout the course of 28 days. We sold out within 40 hours just to the waitlist last time, so we didn't even publicly announce it. So if you are interested in the next cohort, do sign up for the waitlist, linked over here, also in description if you want. New category: daily life stuff. I don't know about you, but I'm the type of person that really hates thinking about daily things, like what to eat and what to wear. So I do this so often. I take pictures of my clothes and I also take pictures of whatever I have in the fridge and ask AI to come up with different outfit and food ideas. Also to
This was another one that appeared in that video, that whiny ass video. This person said they saw a commercial with the Google, with Gemini, and they took a picture of their fridge, and the question allegedly was, why does my fridge smell? Now, they could not find the commercial to include in their video, and it is possible, it is always possible, that Google took that commercial down for some reason. They have done so in the past. But also, if you can't show me, I don't believe you, homie. What up, Schuster? The other thing though is they were real snarky about it. Like it's your fridge, bro, and it's food, and the food goes bad and everything else. You know what? I just taught a bunch of people about a P-trap, right? Which is a really basic plumbing issue that I would think a lot of people would know about, and you should have learned from someone else prior to this moment, but you didn't. So I never assume, I never let my ego get so big as to assume that everyone knows the same things that I do, right? Because it happens all the time. Different people have different sets of knowledge, and it's great when they share it with each other. And AI is a tool that can help you do that to make up the gaps in your, your lack of knowledge. Did dad not teach you how to shave? Did your dad fucking die on you before you learned how to shave? Did you, any of those fucking things? Is like, okay, sometimes it's super helpful. Don't fucking come at me, bro. Some people don't understand. There are people out there in the world who have no idea when they put the ketchup, the mustard, that weird sauce that they got that one time for that one meal, and how long that shit lasts in the fridge. So you need to fucking slow the fuck down. I'm with you, Ben, but like even when I lived in apartments, I did my own P-trap shit just because I didn't want to. I never wanted people in my apartment. You know what I mean? Other than the people. There are people who don't even know how to bathe properly. Learn that in boot camp. I'm telling you, right? Like people don't know how to use soap, and they don't know what parts to wash. And there are people who think it's like, if you touch your booty hole, it's gay, and so don't properly wash their ass and all this other shit. I ain't hating. Y'all need to fucking learn shit. That's what it comes down to. Exactly, Digital.
Generate weekly meal plans and shopping lists. Great if you're trying to reduce grocery costs. Get room decoration and interior design suggestions. Apparently my background will look a lot better if it had some.
Do you know what fruits and vegetables are able to be frozen? Right? That's a hard thing to Google and an easy thing to ask AI. Not all vegetables and fruits should be frozen because things happen when you freeze stuff. So, and there is stuff that you can do, right? Like, fucking, hey, have you ever thought that maybe like if you squeeze the orange juice out of the oranges and then you can add it to ice cubes, an ice cube tray, and put that in your freezer, then when you put the ice cubes in your orange juice, that the orange juice in the ice cubes will then become the orange juice in your glass and it won't water down your fucking orange juice, these kind of things, right? Get a different fucking perspective. Yeah, no, you should absolutely, if you can, right? You like iced tea, make iced tea and then iced tea cubes so that you can put that in your iced tea. It's
green vegetation, so I just ordered that. Get preliminary guidance for health issues and where to seek more professional help. For example, I have neck issues and also like pain in my scapula, but I didn't know.
I'm just concerned for the amount of P-traps that you might need, Crix. Like, is this a concern? Are you worried about floating away? 100%, Ben. Like I do green tea, right? Like I do my protein smoothies, and as opposed to making them with like milk or water or whatever. My doctor said you should take more or drink more green tea, brewed green tea, not like Arizona cans and shit. And you should brew it and then do that because that's helpful for cholesterol, I think it was. And I'm like, cool, right? Like, so I take a pitcher, right, that's got a removable top, and I lay 8 tea bags of green tea in there, and I close that bad boy up, and then I fill it with water, and I leave it in the fridge. And after 6 to 12 hours, I have cold brew tea. And by cold brewing the tea, it doesn't get the sharp tannins that a lot of people don't like. That turns that turns people off from drinking tea, right? So that's how I do my tea. I could then use that tea to fucking make the ice cubes like we talked about a minute ago. I remember when I was much younger, I was nervous about opening a bank account. The lady that helped me was so condescending and patronizing because they had this weird expectation that everyone just comes out of the womb knowing finance literacy. So I went to a different bank. At that bank, they were so nice and courteous, and they helped me along with the whole process. Absolutely. And that's a lot of people don't ask questions because of that reason. One, they don't want to be condescended to. They don't want to be treated like a child or an idiot, right? And they don't know. And they're scared to ask another person because we're terrified that everyone else knows this thing that we don't know, and like that they're gonna treat us like we don't, like, how do you feed yourself kind of levels of fucking condescension. It's annoying as shit. And fuck, if you can't ask a human being, the AI never gonna judge you, not even once.
What kind of doctor I should be looking for. So I asked the AI, figuring out the types of insurances to buy and optimizing the sequence in which you buy these insurances, because apparently that matters too. It's a big thing in Hong Kong. Optimizing taxes. And speaking of which, let's now make a smooth transition into personal finances.
I bet you
Creating
do,
personalized
Chris.
financial plans, including saving plans and investment plans. What kind of apps to be using? I recommend using deep research for this. Also for planning and analyzing retirement fund strategies. Most countries have certain retirement accounts that you can take advantage of. I personally also built a workflow to help me better track my expenses. Every time I buy something, I can take a picture of a receipt or just have it in text and numbers and send it through WhatsApp. And an agent would be able to take that information, categorize everything, and compile that together into a database. And I get a daily, weekly, and monthly report on how I'm spending my money. I'm also
I think of you exactly as you present yourself, Crix.
currently in the process of building a workflow that can manage and automate my finances better, because my certain financial situation is a little bit more complex. An emphasis on food, with large purchases like steak and chocolate totaling $4,000, making food the most dominant category. Great if you're trying to reduce grocery costs. Next section, learning, my favorite.
Yeah, Johnny, but even that, like, let's say you want to grill, right? Like, here you are, you want to grill, you get yourself one of them cheap Weber clamshell joints, you get yourself some charcoal, and now you want to grill, and you get some salmon or some meat or whatever, right? Like, now what do I do? Right? If you don't know, if no one was there to teach you beforehand, you might just fucking, you might get the lighter fluid, spray it on the fucking thing, throw a match in there. Now it's on fire. Okay, fire plus meat. So now you throw the meat on there. Well, now your meat tastes like fucking lighter fluid, and you fucking threw that whole thing away. Like, what up, Classical Gas? Or if not a Weber, then one of them, less expensive Weber clamshell joints, right? Like, there are a bunch of different, entry level, grilling situations, right? Some people like propane, some people like charcoal, all that. What do you have access to, right? But now is the time of the year, at least in the United States, where people are throwing out their old charcoal grills or whatever, because they're getting a new one, right? For the next friggin', event that they're going to have. you go around on, the day before garbage day and you might get yourself a free little grill. I am not condescending to Johnny, right? Like, I'm building off what Johnny said. I would never condescend to Johnny. But it's like, if you don't know how to grill, if no one ever taught you, what do you do? Right? You know that you need, I need a charcoal grill, ergo I need charcoal. I mean, there's that, Johnny, but I'm saying what people do, right? Especially go find the nice neighborhood, right? Because those motherfuckers throw away good shit. And I am not above it, right? I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. I have gotten so many fucking tables and lamps and all sorts of other fucking shit that people just throw away in the nice goddamn neighborhood. I ain't above it. I don't give a shit. Oh, garbage picker, go fuck yourself, right? Cheap living, love it. It's great. And I had a lot of nice tables. You know what this fucking desk is a nice L-shaped desk. My wife got this from some fucking body. That shelf that's got the books on it, that's recycled or found. Why are my alerts not working? T minus the goat gifting one out to Johnny. Thank you very much, homie. I appreciate you. All sorts of shit. Yeah, absolutely, Pharaoh. Why should it go to the garbage? How does that make sense? What up, Just Julie? That kind of fucking thing. And I understand it might feel weird that you're taking something out of the garbage and putting it into your vehicle or carrying it on your back or however you're going to transport it. That's your ego talking to you. Fuck that. Fuck your ego, dude. Because every time you get to use that free table, you will be so much happier. And like you might be able to you go and you get your table and you can get some inexpensive paint samples, right? It costs like $2 for a little paint jar at Home Depot, and you paint up the fucking table, and now you got a nifty table that matches your shit. The amount of cheap clamshell, three-legged, yeah, exactly, chef. Picked up a microwave. Yeah, that's the thing. Is because especially in the nicer neighborhoods, they are doing it for aesthetic, not necessarily because it doesn't work anymore. Right? When you go to poorer neighborhoods, they're doing it because it doesn't work anymore. You know what I mean? Cook an over easy egg on a hibachi grill on the back deck of a long line and 25-foot seas. Very nice. I literally cut down an old tree last Friday for tomorrow's barbecue. Nice. Rich areas throw out nicer stuff than you can afford to buy. True. I'd rather save the money and know I've recycled it. Absolutely. I still have my grandma's table and chair. I love old stuff. Absolutely. And a lot of it, especially if you can get the older, well-made stuff, it's not made out of fucking particle board. It's going to last longer. All that good shit. Facebook Marketplace, yeah, and there's also a bunch of groups like Facebook groups and free cycle groups where they'll be, like, I got a table, I'm gonna throw it away. Does anybody want it? And you be like, yeah, I want that shit. And all right, I'm gonna put it out at the road at this fucking time, so come get it. That kind of shit. You want to talk about community building? Free cycle people. Still hit or miss. Some of them are assholes, like any other community. But a lot of them actually give a shit, right? Like they that kind of thing. And then you end up in trade relationships, right? Where it's like, now a bunch of you have the ability to clean out a P-trap. So when your friend says, fuck, my kitchen sink's clogged and I don't know what to do, I'm going to have to call a plumber. I said, don't call a plumber, right? I'll come over and I'll fix your fucking P-trap. Can you help me out with this other fucking thing? And they'll be like, absolutely. I love fucking with that other fucking thing. And you come and you bust out the P-trap real quick and you're like, Two of my favorite pieces of furniture were not out of the trash, but Habitat for Humanity. Yeah, absolutely. $5, that's another thing, is I love going to thrift stores, right? All that kind of shit. Because again, a lot of people, I got a fucking Dutch oven, which is normally like a $60, $70, $80 fucking item, and I got it from Savers for $25. Right? Is it used? Absolutely. Does it still work? It's a fucking Dutch oven. It'll live forever. Exactly, classical gas. Right on, right on. We're talking about AI.
AI is so amazing for learning. It's basically an on-demand tutor that is very, very knowledgeable and is available 24/7. You can get explanations and answers for pretty much anything. What I find the most useful is to get completed worked examples of a subject, like a worked example of a physics problem that I can follow step by step. AI can create comprehensive study plans on certain subjects, like if you want to learn about AI agents. Create mnemonics for better memory retention, one of my favorite techniques. Create mock exams and quizzes. Use the Socratic method of learning, a really great learning technique. You know how a lot of nonfiction, like self-help, productivity, like business kind of books would often have like questions and
Here's another thing for the learning aspect, right? And using AI to help you learn. What is your learning style? Do you even know how you learn best, right? Excuse me. You can use AI as a fucking tutor, right? Excuse me. And if something's not sticking, you can tell your tutor, your AI tutor, I'm not getting it. Is there another way you could teach this? And it's got patience for all day. It will take the time. It will figure out, you will figure out what your learning style is, what works best for you, all that kind of shit. Yo! None of my alerts are working for some reason. There's something muted. Try resetting that. What up, Raiders? Have fun with your Blue Jay, Prof. What up, Raiders? I'm Globus the Elder. I talk about AI, automation, robots, and future tech. And also, today we've also been talking how to clean a P-trap and change a ball cock in your toilet tank. It's a weird day. It's a weird day. We're currently watching a video on 101 ways to use AI in your daily life. I highly recommend everyone give this a watch. It's only 15 minutes or less, 14:25, and it's got some ideas, and maybe you can figure out how you might be able to make your life easier, which it's tough out here, right? Poke Raj Roy. Am I getting that right? Welcome in. And this is Crix, everyone. I had some terrible teachers that I couldn't learn from and had to figure it out on my own. And AI would have made me a much better student. It's a thing, right? It's a thing. My son was having an issue with something. I don't know. Because he's a teenager, so it's like he will only tell me so much. What up, Science Politically? And he ran into an issue, and he fed it to ChatGPT, and he had ChatGPT read him the information so that he was able to fix his fucking technical problem with whatever computer-related shit that he was doing, right? Like, it's a tool. It's a fucking tool. Use the tool, right? Yes, you can hammer nails with a rock. It works a lot better with a good hammer.
exercises throughout the book. Well, instead of having to flip through and actually find these questions and exercises, you can just ask AI to extract these questions and make them into a workbook. For learning languages, create voice content for different languages. This is a game changer when you're trying to immerse yourself in a language, and you can completely control how advanced you go. I use Notebook LM to create a bunch of different podcasts for learning Japanese. Generate Anki flashcards from study notes. Use voice functionality to practice your listening and your hearing when you're learning a foreign language. Convert documents into podcast format. Use Perplexity to research and search all the different content related to a topic and make it all into into a custom study plan for you. Modify learning content
job,
into
Reed.
whatever
You got
modality that you prefer. Instead of just reading from a textbook, maybe you prefer having it in video format or audio format, or as infographics. Straight out, just ask AI to create a full course on a specific topic, like a course on MCP. Madness is great for this. Next category is careers and business. It is a pretty rough job market out there. Use AI to help you create comprehensive job search strategies. Research most in-demand skills in your domain and create a study plan to learn them. Review your resume. Ask AI to give you a thorough review and critique of your resume, your portfolio, and everything else. Voice functionality for mock interviews. Ask
I have an S25 and fat thumbs, Reed, so I know the struggle of the keyboard and like typing fast enough to be relevant in a chat and like not taking the time to read this shit.
for creative ways to stand out when applying for a role. On the business side, generate lists of potential job candidates. Create onboarding material and project documentation. Create business plans. Figure out business structure and incorporation processes. By the way, these are all things that I recently did after I started a company. Research and plan your business insurance needs. Build and design websites. Design marketing pamphlets. Create business cards. Pretty old school, but in Hong Kong, they still use business cards. Create contracts. Not legal advice, but to be honest, I do it. Write company policies. Do research into different applicable funds. There are a lot of government and private funds out there that are just like giving out free money and people just don't know about them. Next category is relationships. So this is going to be a very short list, but in all honesty, AI has completely transformed my relationships because I think I'm not very naturally good at relationships. You can ask AI for relationship advice for like different scenarios and how you should behave. I also use the voice functionality so often to practice difficult conversations ahead of time. This has been such a game changer. And finally, miscellaneous things that I just think are cool. Create cartoons and manga for stories and for educational content. Edit images like changing the color of your clothes, getting people to look like they're dancing, changing the patterns on the walls, and just like everything that has to do with coding.
That was Recraft. Recraft is a great little AI website. It's the only one I know of that allows me to do shit like this. Right? So I have this image here, right? And then I have this image of a planet. And you can do this with anything, right? You can generate the image of whatever it is that you want to generate. And then I can take this, I'll make it bigger, right? And then I can take this image, and when I draw it over the planet, it's now matches the curvature of the planet, right? So if you want to put an image on an object for whatever purpose, Recraft is really good at this. And it's super easy to use. So yeah, I highly recommend Recraft. Up next, Nate B. Jones talking about ChatGPT 5.
I use AI for now. All right, that is all that I have for you guys today. That was a lot. 101 to be specific. Let me know in the comments which ones are your favorite use cases. And please let me know in the comments as well what use cases that you use that I did not cover. I am super interested to know. And I will see you guys in the next video or live stream.
This video does one thing.
Was it 101? I mean, it was a lot. They surface leveled a whole bunch of information. So yes.
It helps you understand AI before ChatGPT 5.
She was probably sweating because she was going very fast. Also, what up, Minute? and they're in Hong Kong. So I imagine it's very warm and humid there right now. And I don't know what the air conditioning situation is in Hong Kong. So, catch up before ChatGPT 5, your complete AI guide, timeline, AI basics, resources, and who to follow. He's not going to mention me, but we'll forgive him for that.
Comes along and changes everything all over again. I get so many DMs that say, Nate, how do I actually understand AI before it's too late? Nate, I am late on AI. Nate, I don't know how to catch up. This video is for you. It's for anyone who has that feeling. It's also for you if you want to know what's in the box on ChatGPT 5 and what we know so far. Let's start with this moment we're in today. This is the summer of consolidation. I'm comparing it to the 2007 iPhone release. Fundamentally, what is going to happen from here until October, November, December of 2025 is going to make 2023 and 2024 models look completely outdated.
Oh, Nate has more hair than I do.
Itself is going through a platform shift right now. And ChatGPT 5 is one of the big releases that we are looking forward to this year that is going to underscore that fundamental shift toward a more unified professional enterprise experience. And if you want to take advantage of that, if you want to be ready for that, it makes sense to get ready now. It makes sense to catch up now so you don't feel farther behind. So what we're going to cover is everything we know about ChatGPT 5. We're going to talk about the story of AI very briefly in plain English. You don't have to have a maths degree.
Maybe.
We're going to talk about some resources you can use to dig into. Yes, they are on YouTube. And we're going to talk about people to follow to keep up with the signal over all the noise that's going to happen this summer, because there's a lot of noise. That's a ton to cover, but we're going to do it fast. First, released.
I want to hear him mentioned AI Explained. I want to hear him mentioned Wes Roth. What up, me? Welcome in, homie. I want to hear him mention probably Matt Wolf, right? I think Matt Wolf should be on that list. And then he's probably got some other ones, you know, that kind of thing. If Nate, if he happens to mention me, and again, I don't think he's going to. I don't think there's any chance that Nate is going to mention me as the #1 AI news and commentary show on Twitch. But if he does, I will lose my shit. I will fangirl all over this mother.
Timeline. We think July. Early Q3 could be any time. We do know that the OpenAI team is off this coming week through about July 4th. They've been working very hard. It would make sense to give them a break before the pressure of the
What up,
rollout.
Maddie?
Part of the pressure has to do with bringing the model into a single, truly unified brain, quote unquote. So bringing the O series reasoning model, the general knowledge of GPT-4, voice capabilities, and deep searching tools all into one place. As Sam has said, we hate the model picker as much as you do. Getting that right is really hard. We will see if he gets it right, but that's certainly what they're going for with ChatGPT 5. As far as capabilities, look for...
And we were just talking about that. It is like, for the utility and the assistance, especially for new people who are just coming into using something like ChatGPT or whatever, the model picker is problematic. I should not have to decide what model it is that I should be using. I should be able to just enter in the thing that I'm trying to know, and a model should look at my query and then choose the model that would be most appropriate, both to save, right? From the environmental aspect, use less power, etc., but also to get me better results. You know what I mean?
4 areas of improvement. We don't know the exact specs, but I kind of don't care about the exact specs because typically you have to actually use the models to see if they're any good. Improvement area #1, multimodality. Seamless speech in and out, images, maybe video with this release. Reasoning depth, to go seamlessly from limited chain of thought to really reliable in-depth problem solving. Reliability, surfacing that one good answer in 10,000 consistently. And that, by the way, takes a lot of inference under the surface to pick the right answer. And then 4th, personalization, memory, access to email, calendar, enterprise knowledge, etc. This will take adaptive computing, so heavy GPU use only when needed. And I think it's going to lean pretty heavily into voice because that would align nicely with the very rumored Jony Ive device. So we will see. However, even if it's adaptive compute, it's still going to take a lot of compute cores. It's going to take perhaps tens of thousands of GPUs to
And that's the thing. Like if there is this OpenAI Jony Ive device and it does, it does what the previous AI devices have failed to do, which is meet any kind of expectation, you got to hit that quick. You got to hit that quick because Apple is like has failed at getting that type of addition to the iPhone. And if they can get that device out there, they have a chance to just fucking blow right past them. And, now it has to be good. That's the only question. Will it be good? And again, every other AI device has been garbage.
Properly serve this model. It has to be scaled out. And that is not something that they're going to do without being sure they got it right. Because if you recall, every time we've had an OpenAI at launch in the past year or so, we've had a brownout beforehand. We've often had scaling issues during the launch. This is their premier launch for the year 2025. They do not want to mess it up. So they're going to take their time and make sure they get the engineering right. And that's part of why we don't have a date and they haven't announced a date. Okay. So the takeaways for builders now, based on what we know: expect smoother user experience, not just bigger brains. Expect a gradual rollout because, again, they're going to be monitoring those GPUs. So I would expect it's going to follow their usual pattern and go from Pro to Plus to Free, but they're going to try and accelerate it as fast as they can, I would bet, because they really want this to be a flagship rollout for everybody. And so even if you get less stuff or less intelligence or whatever, ChatGPT 5 Lite, it's still going to get to free pretty quick, I think. Expect extra tooling for monitoring alignment. I think that's going to be a bigger factor. I don't know what that will look like. It's just a guess, but I would expect more levers in the APIs in particular for monitoring alignment. I will be curious to see what the actual parameters look like, just like everybody else, but mostly I want to see if they actually are able to build a single coherent brain that can infer from our prompts what the model needs to do, whether it's a deep research task or something that's much lighter. Okay, that is what we know on ChatGPT 5. Part 2, helping you get ready for ChatGPT 5. What is AI anyway? Yes, we're going to go there and it's going to be plain English. We're going to start back in the early 2000s, classical machine learning. Machine learning is fundamentally telling an algorithm what details matter. One example that came up in the 2000s was spam filtering. You would count exclamation marks in emails. You would look for a keyword match with Viagra. You would manually encode those features, and then you would use logistic regression, decision trees, etc., and you would try and get the algorithm to help you filter out the spam. In 2012, things started to shift. GPUs became cheaper. We started to get very large labeled data sets like ImageNet. And we had deeper neural networks that actually learned features automatically. We got a computer vision breakthrough because we had more compute. So we discovered that edges and textures could be determined without being told in advance. We discovered with
Reed, if you have a second, check your Discord DMs, please and thank you.
Word2Vec in 2013 that networks could learn word relationships. The famous example is that a network could learn that king minus man plus woman equals queen. For the first time, meaning could emerge from data, not rules. And that unlocked a lot of other interesting discoveries. However, we were still limited. Fundamentally, we were limited by sequential processing. Everything had to be read one token at a time. Training was slow. These models struggled with long sentences and were generally only interesting to academics. They didn't really hit production for most use cases in the enterprise. Then everything changed in 2017 when the Transformer Revolution happened. It was started by the paper Attention is All You Need, which is super famous. I definitely recommend you go check it out. It included the insight that you could use attention weights to show token relationships, and that unlocked massive GPU scaling. for the first time, you can track long-range dependencies across human language. And it turns out that human language has a lot of long-range dependencies. As an example, you know in your heads, if you're still watching this, that I have been talking about the lead up to ChatGPT 5, even though I haven't mentioned that in a few paragraphs now. Why is that? Why is that? Because you're human and you can understand long-range dependencies. Until 2017, machines couldn't do that. Okay, so two big macro trends that emerged. One, self-supervised learning. No hand labeling was needed anymore. You could train it to fill in the blanks and predict the next token, and you could scale. You could scale from millions to billions to trillions of tokens. That led to scaling laws. It turned out that performance improves in a predictable way with scale, and if bigger is reliably and quantifiably better, it makes sense to invest. There is yield there. That unlocked a massive investment in AI over the last 6 or 7 years. So that's the brief story. Now we fast forward past 2017, past 2020, up to 2025. How does AI actually work? By the way, this will work for ChatGPT 5's basic architecture, just like any other large language model. It is important to understand how they work. Number one, prediction. Just predicting the next word sounds really trivial, but it's not. Fundamentally, if you have scale, and if you understand the structure of language, you can encode a vast amount of knowledge. You can build up answers, token by token, that reflect that structure, that reflect that scale. And you can use model weights, which are conditional probabilities, and they can encode a tremendously dense information set. They can encode long-range relationships. They can encode short-range relationships. They can talk about grammatical similarities. They can talk about cognates or meaning similarities. They can encode even relationships we don't fully understand. One of the most interesting things about LLMs and weights and encoding is that we have learned more things about language than we expected because LLMs are better in some ways at learning natural language than we are ourselves, the people who invented it. So let's talk about these weights. We call them embeddings. Computers need to work with numbers, so we have to turn the words into numbers. Text is broken into tokens, which are really subwords of about 4 characters. Each token is then encoded as a high-dimensional vector, which means that it's a fancy number set that captures meaning in a spatial way. So embeddings will discover that cat is close to kitten because the vectored numbers are going to be somewhat similar. But it will be far away from democracy unless a cat runs for president. You never know. All of this is learned during training, and it enables you to conduct mathematical operations on meaning itself, on semantic meaning, which is
Stampy 2028. You want to start your campaign today, sir?
really cool. Number 2, I told you this would be interesting. Number 2, the transformer engine. Every token computes relevance to all other tokens. That's really key. Query vectors are going to measure similarity between different keys, create a weighted average of values, and different attention heads are going to find different patterns. What all of that adds up to is different perspectives on the pattern making in text mathematically, and that adds nonlinear depth. So you can stack different layers of heads up to 60 plus and get a very complex capture of dependencies, which is a fancy technical way of saying a complex, high-fidelity picture of a human text. You can understand the meanings inside it, which is why if you ask an AI to read a text,
we will add your biological and technological distinctiveness to
Sorry
our
for
own.
blasting your ears.
Resistance is futile.
Yo, Argonian. What up, Raiders? Go on. Got my... Welcome in, Raiders. I am Globus the Elder. I talk about AI, automation, robots, and future tech. And as some people are wont to point out, I do it through a leftist lens. You should learn. Come in. Sit down. It's an educational space. If you don't know something, you can ask. We talk about shit. We kick around ideas. The only thing that that matters to us is that you come in good faith. What up, Base Ninja? Yeah, exactly, Argonian, exactly. right? Like, I am not going to tech bro your shit, and I'm not going to fucking, like, I am sympathetic and empathetic when it comes to, like, people losing their jobs and all that kind of thing. I think that the solutions need to be larger. I think that we need resource distribution, all of that kind of stuff. You can talk about this stuff. You can talk about the means of production when it comes to AI, right? All that kind of shit. And I have a cat. This is Stampy. You want to go full screen? This is Stampy. He's a big boy. He's the bestest boy, aren't you? Aren't you the bestest boy? Yeah. He also knows his worth and refuses to be on screen for free. He requires snacks. So, hit the follow button, or if you're uncomfortable with hitting the follow button, just write down the channel name and come back. We are currently watching a video on AI, like getting you up to speed, getting you some ideas on how to use the tool. It's a tool like any other tool. You should know how to use it, and like that. So come on in. Oh yeah, no. Like, he's nothing but absolutely light and love, but he needs to be respected, and that's what I love about cats.
Text and give you a sense of the literary meanings. This is why it understands it. Transformer architecture is why Opus 4 can understand Hemingway. It's wild, but it's actually math. I don't know that Hemingway would agree or support or encourage it, but it's actually math. It is position aware, so word order does matter, and we see that when we prompt. Getting to training. So this is all just understanding how they work. You have to train these models. The goal is to minimize the error in prediction for the next token, but it turns out it is difficult to do that well. And the reason it's difficult to do that well is because words can have different meanings and goals in different contexts. And so you have to have a lot of data sources from a really wide range: web pages, books, newspapers, code, dialogue transcripts, high quality data sets, sometimes low quality data sets. Certainly getting started low quality data sets. Now we're getting to real scale. Trillions of tokens, thousands of GPUs, weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks of training on this massive data set. And yes, they do try and make it as high quality as they can now because they know that affects the model. And what you're doing is you're doing something called...
Oh, also, I forgot to mention it. Reed did post the list. I'm posting it again. This list here is a Google Doc that contains a bunch of books that underline the theory that we talk about on this channel, that underpin the theory of, like, this whole thing, and the better future that we can have. I highly recommend everyone read as many as these books as you're capable of. Primarily, if you've got to start somewhere, start with Fully Automated Luxury Communism by Aaron Bastani. It's a great book. Easy read.
Gradient descent, which is basically trying to systematically minimize the model's propensity to error on the next token prediction across billions and trillions of... It takes a long time. It's very complex to rig up. And it gets exponentially harder the bigger the model gets. And guess what? The models get bigger. This is part of why Llama 4 Behemoth has not been released. The training run did not go well, or so the rumor has it. Zuck, don't come for me. Weights encode language patterns, facts, and reasoning, and they do it better when the training goes well. One of the reasons it is rumored that Sonnet 4 is good at writing, good at code, is because Anthropic took time to get the training data right for the Sonnet model, and also for Opus. It's interrelated. There's like a focus on training data that comes through for Claude, and that is rumored to be one of the reasons why Claude's personality, quote unquote, or Claude's prose, Claude's code is supposed to be very good. I certainly find it that way, and I'm not the only one. This is not an advertisement for Claude. I love lots of models. All right, inference. Inference is what happens after training is complete, after launch day, when you get to generating responses. And yes, all of this is still, roughly speaking, how GPT-5 will work. There will be some wrinkles as it is working across multiple context lengths and token lengths, or multiple context lengths to infer meaning. But fundamentally, the same bones will be there. And I'm giving you the bones so you understand them. This is a one-stop shop so you can understand how AI works. Inference. You want to take a query that you give and you want to get a good answer back. So you have to tokenize the prompt and you have to turn it into embeddings. We know what embeddings are now. You have to run it through the transformer, which is going to figure out the contextual vectors that go with that prompt. Then you have to score it and you have to figure out the sampling strategies from all of the possible futures or all the possible tokens it could predict that you want. You could have a greedy strategy, which just uses the highest probability token. You have temperature controls to control the randomness. You can even do something like beam search for parallel pathing. Anyway, you figure out your strategy to sample. This is just for one token. You add the token, and then you do it all over again, and you repeat until you stop. Coherence emerges from doing that a lot and giving lots of feedback, which gets to step 5. How do you align these things? Step 5 is when you take raw models, which mimic everything, including really dark content, and you give them very structured alignment. You give them reinforcement learning, including learning with human feedback, where humans rank answers. You give them system prompts, and you give them curated question and answer to teach them formats. The goal is that they come back with honest and harmless and helpful responses. This is not an easy area to solve for. Even now, we are figuring out holes that we have in our responses and how to close them. The grandma hack still works. You can still tell most models that your grandma is unwell or has passed away, and the model will do something it's not supposed to do out of sympathy for you and your grandma, which, by the way, I don't think I'm spreading much there. I think that's a very well-known hack. But it still works, and that's an area of alignment. All right, where are we going after this? What are things that we would expect ChatGPT-5 to be able to do? Retrieval augmented generation is something that has become big. It's fundamentally where a model will call a database to get fresh facts. It's like an open book exam. This can reduce hallucinations if you construct it well. It can also constrain the model if you put a RAG on in a way that forces the model to only look at that data and that keeps the model from thinking outside of that space in a way that is unhelpful, because it turns out you need more data than that. So I have seen RAG architectures that are tremendously useful because the model can go and get the data and come back and also think more broadly. And I've also seen RAG architectures that kind of feel like a dead end, because you go in and you get the answers out of the HR policy manual and it's like, oh, that's all we got. And there's not really much to it and nobody uses it. So RAG is one of those ones you have to like actually use carefully. Second big one that you want to expect say that 5 times fast, ChatGPT-5 to go after. Tool use. There will be a lot of tool use in ChatGPT-5. So output JSON triggering, calculators, databases, agents, extending beyond the static text. We already see this with O3. I expect more of it. Mixture of experts is quite controversial. I don't know if they'll talk about it, but fundamentally, there's a sense in which models will sometimes call special expert submodels, and the router will choose where to activate them, which can lead to efficient scaling. That might be under the surface. They may not tell us. And frankly, they may not tell us if they're using a RAG model. They are using something to keep context windows rolling that they aren't talking a ton about. And so they're also using something with memory. One of the interesting things with OpenAI as a team is they're not super transparent so far with how they do some of these things. That may change because they're also rumored to be introducing an open source model in July along with ChatGPT-5. We will see. Time will tell. This brings me to the current limitations. Yes, transparency is a question. Hallucinations are definitely something that are a concern. You know, Sam Altman admitted on stage recently that they are figuring out that hallucinations work differently with reasoning models than with non-reasoning models, and that is leading to questions for them, and they're wrestling with how to align that better. I think that's a very perceptive approach, because to me, I feel like hallucination type really changes. If you have a simpler model, it's just going to be a domain completeness error. It's going to be like, oh, this is just wrong. If you have a more complex model, the hallucination, quote unquote, may actually be a complete thought that's very coherent, that's scaffolded out correctly. And the error may be that the reality isn't as scaffolded out and complete as you think. So I will be curious how ChatGPT-5 addresses hallucinations, how it addresses bias from training data, how it addresses multi-step reasoning, and working off of memory. There's going to be a lot of things to learn from. Okay. We have gone through ChatGPT-5 and what to expect, a little bit about AI, how AI works. Now I want to give you the cheat sheet on what you can keep learning. Number one, I want you to start to look through the introduction to large language models that Andrej Karpathy talks about and gives on his channel. It is an
That's the link to the video that he was talking about. There's actually a whole playlist course to look at. This is a serious person. This is someone who works with the tool and like that. This is a video on how they use the LLMs. I thought that this video was great. Definitely give them a follow if you want to learn more. And it's in spite of them being a very serious person about what they do, the way that they express themselves is very approachable.
Absolutely phenomenal introduction to large language models in AI. Neural network series by 3 Blue 1 Brown, also on YouTube, also extraordinary. And the Stanford CS, say that.
I don't know that you need to know the neural networks unless you really want to understand. We can go there. Oh, it's neural network. This one is a course again, but like if you want to get into it, this is the stuff. These are definitely people to learn from.
5 times fast, also an incredible 16 lecture course. If you just do those 3, you are already going to be farther ahead than 98% of people, really. There's a few others that I could get into, but for the sake of time, we'll jump a little bit forward. I now want to give you the...
That's what, no, he's talking about serious people. And that was one of the reasons why I didn't expect to be, that he would mention me. Not that he would have any idea who I am with my 1,500 followers on Twitch and my 180 followers on YouTube. Like, one could hope, one could dream, right? When the big dogs point in your direction and give you the nod, you got to be ready for that. That's what Paradigm taught me.
11 people that I think will give you the most signal versus noise that I can find anywhere on the internet for AI. Number 1, probably haven't heard of him, Simon Willison. He co-created Django, the language. He coined the term prompt injection. He writes phenomenal blog posts, and he has a ton of them, like over 1,300. He's built LLM command line tools, and he's absolutely an authoritative resource. Ethan Mollick is number 2. He is tremendously influential on AI. He wrote a book on it. He's a Wharton professor, and he has been tremendously clear about describing the impact of AI on both academia and work. I've mentioned Andrej Karpathy, former Tesla AI director, OpenAI co-founder. He has done a phenomenal job on teaching AI, and that is why I recommended some of his courses. He is able to take a complex concept and distill it into something simple and understandable in a way that I just rarely see anywhere else. Okay, let's follow a few others. 4 and 5, I think you're not going to be surprised by. Number 4 is Sam Altman, OpenAI CEO. I think enough said. Number 5 is Dario Amodei, Anthropic CEO. Again, enough said. Demis Hassabis is slightly less well known unless you're deeper in the space. He did win the Nobel Prize in 2024. And he did so for his AlphaFold work in chemistry. Fundamentally, he is one of the leading minds on AI, and he's especially deep working with Google on the science side of things. Ilya Sutskever is another former founder of OpenAI. He's now founded Safe Superintelligence, and he is pursuing superintelligence directly. He's not doing product releases. You won't see him at a dev day, anything like that. All he's doing is focusing on superintelligence. Okay, number 9, Claire Vaux. She has done a phenomenal job talking about how people actually AI. She's built a product called Chat PRD, and she is one of the leading lights on how you apply AI in the workplace. Number 10, Dwarkesh. He's become, I guess, Silicon Valley's favorite podcaster. He interviews really well.
Dwarkesh does interview really well. Dwarkesh has a lot of the baggage as far as like, again, from looking at these things from that leftist lens, right? There are things that you may find problematic, right? When listening to the people. Same with like a Lex Friedman type, right? Like it's as you get into the Dwarkesh Patel and the Lex Friedman types, you need to turn on your media literacy, turn on your critical thinking, crank those bad boys up, and approach that with the I am listening to this in order to gain specific knowledge from the people that they are talking to. And then there is value to be drawn from that, right? You will be able to learn a lot of stuff. And just you have to let the politics kind of wash past you, because their politics are not the same as probably most of yours. I assume that there's some of you who are different on the political sphere, but especially for the leftist folks, it can be a little challenging. There's value to be drawn there. There's education to be drawn there. It's important to interact with it, right?
deeply read. He's deeply thoughtful. Mostly, you follow his podcast because the people he picks are interesting, and he has very long and interesting conversations with them. Mary Meeker, I talked about her recently on this channel. She is phenomenal in the sort of deep trends investor level space. I covered her 340-page AI trend.
Right, exactly. Remember that Marx's books were a critique of capitalism, right? Like that's, and like Marx, the capitalist is going to create the production means that you are going to seize. That's what we're talking about, right? Like, and that's why I think you can talk about AI through a leftist lens.
Friends report, she is someone who's been investing in internet and investing in tech for decades, and she is renowned for her sharpness. So those are the 11, right? Those are the 11 to follow. Let's wrap this up. What do you now know that most people don't? One, you know that GPT-5 isn't just GPT-4, but bigger. That by itself is a big piece of knowledge. Two, you can tell me and everyone else the quick journey from spam filters to ChatGPT. I just told it to you. You can go back and rewatch it if you need to. Number three, you know that LLMs are sophisticated pattern recognizers. You actually have clear English that I just described to you that explains how they work. It's not magic. You know where to go learn from AI. I gave you some courses, and you know who to follow this for signal over noise. I want you to realize that AI isn't about keeping...
And baby, I just met you. This is crazy. Here's my number. Call me baby. Thank you for the follow. And I've told you, I've talked, for those of you who haven't been here before today, I've talked about this a lot. Curate your algorithm, right? The content that you get from YouTube or any other channels in the internet as a whole, you have to curate your algorithm. If you focus on getting content from people who talk about things from an educational space, you're going to get more educational content that you can learn stuff from. And learning is fun. Knowing new things is fun. It's great. It's wonderful. It's one of my favorite things to do. Like, there are days when, like, brain hurty because no more go in. That's awesome, right? And, You got to wash dishes. You got to do laundry. You got to do that. That's when you throw on one of these hour, 2 hour friggin' podcasty type things and just listen to the stuff in the background. Make the connections. The stuff that you learned here, the stuff that you learned elsewhere, the stuff that you already know from, your educational background. You can make these connections. And then hopefully what I'd love to see is that you bring back some new information and you share it with the group, right? This is the thing. This is what we do. It's a collective sharing of knowledge. Right? Curate your algorithm and share the fucking knowledge.
Up with every Twitter thread. It's about having a solid foundation. It's about knowing where to look, having the right mental models and the right guides. That will set you up for this iPhone moment in 2025. We are re-platforming AI. It's not just ChatGPT 5, by the way. I would expect a lot of other significant re-platforming moves from Google, from Anthropic, potentially from Grok, from DeepSeek. Model makers are in a race to the finish line. Meta is going to get in there at some point. And they are all trying to get to this moment of establishing a platform. They all know that LLMs by themselves are yesterday's news. They need to get to powerful models that ship compelling enterprise user interfaces, compelling experiences for consumers. That is the story. That is the iPhone moment story for 2025. And I want you to understand what drives it all. Good luck out there. Have fun.
Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief.
Okay, we're going to do one more video and then I got to wrap it up. This is another AI Daily Brief. This is context engineering, right? We talked about prompt engineering. We talked about why prompt engineering could be dead because you can use the AI tools. What up, Drenger? Stampy got his snacks and left. He was sleeping here all day and left. So apologies. He operates on his own terms. He is aware of the value that he brings to the table. So now we're going to do a video about context engineering, and then that's going to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed this. Definitely, we leaned heavily into the education. Make sure you're following on the YouTube if you came in late. The VOD will be up on Twitch if you want to do it that way. But as soon as I'm done, I'm going to upload the video to YouTube so it's available on there. Because that's what this is about, is education for the masses.
Today, we are talking about a term that you might have heard a little bit here and there on this show. Maybe you've seen it start to appear more on X or in articles. We're going to talk about what it means, why it's coming up more and more right now, and why it matters for the industry as a whole.
What up, Krusty Claw? What up, Squirrel Nuts?
To kick us off, let's turn to a recent tweet from Toby Lutke, the CEO of Shopify. Last week he wrote, "I really like the term context engineering over prompt engineering. It describes the core skill better, the art of providing all the context for the task to be plausibly solved by the LLM." Now, a lot of folks jumped into the conversation to agree. McKay Wrigley wrote, "Totally agree. These days you get way less performance bonus out of dumb tricks like I'll pay you $100 if you get it right, which is how it should be. All of the alpha is in assembling context well to reduce the fog of war for the model. It's converging to humanish info needs." Nick Dovo says soon context engineering, will include providing the tools, agent environment, and guardrails so the LLMs can find the context on its own. So basically what we have here is a different way to think about how to get the most out of LLMs. Since the beginning of ChatGPT, there has been this new field of prompt engineering, which has spawned innumerable courses and online tutorials, and many tricks and tips and quirks of how to ask in the right way to get the things you need out of LLMs. Now, along the way, prompt engineering has become more and more, let's say, diffuse, if not at this stage, less important. And what I mean by that is that the smarter that models get, the more that tips from 6 or 12 months ago cease to work. And in many cases, there's also UI-related or interface-related abstraction of prompting, where some amount of prompt engineering is being taken over by the tools themselves. To take one example, when I was designing a cover for a recent episode, my prompt to Ideogram was fun, retro, futuristic cover for The Quest for the Solopreneur Unicorn, 1950s mid-century modern.
Ideogram, absolutely the best at getting words right. right? Does the best at getting words right. Ideogram has a very low, unfortunately, amount of free tokens, but still has utility. There's a lot of stuff that I did with, these are the, I was, for Justin Freakin, I was trying to get Joe Rogan and Liver King doing the spaghetti, from what you call it, Lady and the Tramp. But like it's got a lot of utility when it comes to getting words right, making a logo, making a cover, making propaganda, all that kind of stuff. Didn't do good with the the wine glass, but nobody did.
However, what Ideogram turned that into was a retrofuturistic book cover in the style of 1950s mid-century modern design, featuring a determined, sharply dressed solopreneur riding a majestic, glowing white unicorn through a swirling nebula. The solopreneur wears a tailored gray suit, a confident smile, and pilots the unicorn with a futuristic joystick.
What up, G1? It always does, right?
While the unicorn's horn emits a beam of light, illuminating the path ahead. The background consists of stylized geometric planets and stars rendered in a vibrant palette of teal, orange, and yellow, with the title, The Quest for the Solopreneur Unicorn, boldly displayed in a classic chrome accented font. So you're seeing this.
And this is this right here. This is a great example. This was his prompt, right? And then this was the magic prompt. So it re-prompted the thing for the image. And it will do that, like every one of these will have a slightly different magic prompt associated with. And then what you should do is when you get your output and it's what you're looking for, you should see what the magic prompt was so that, you get closer to what it is that you're trying to accomplish.
Type of thing happen a lot more in different tools where the tool themselves are trying to take the essence of what you were asking for and do a better prompt than you could do. Context is something different, and it refers to another part of the value chain of these LLMs. Context is all of the information you give an LLM that helps it answer the question more correctly. So for example, if you are using ChatGPT's O3 or O3 Pro, which is particularly optimized to be better at context, when you add a bunch of files to your prompt, that is the context that you're giving it. Context engineering then becomes about, are you giving the LLM the right information that it needs to give you the output that you're looking for? And it turns out this isn't just about which documents to share with it. It's also literally an engineering task around how to carry context across more complex systems.
And this right here, the lack of context engineering, is why a lot of people will complain on, for instance, like Twitter, about how I entered a prompt and it put out garbage, right? Like it didn't give me a good output, right? For a story or whatever it is. You know what I'm talking about. And it's because, one, your prompt was garbage, right? That's my argument, first off, is that your prompt was not good. And that's why, again, I used the AI to help me do the prompt, and that gives me the proper context, right? And it's possible you gave it too big. Like if you type in, I want a novel, I want you to write me a novel in the style of whatever, about whatever, right? I want you to write me a novel about Joe Rogan and Liver King in the style of Lady and the Tramp. You're going to get some mid-ass shit. But if you break that down into steps, right? Like, work on chapters, work on paragraphs, work on particular scenes within the story, then you're going to get better outputs, because you're going to fine tune and dial in your context in order to get the best possible outcome.
You might remember we recently talked about a post from Cognition, who creates Devin, called Don't Build Multi-Agents. And this was all anchored around context and context engineering. Basically, the argument in this piece, for those who don't remember, was that the multi-agent workflow, where an agent breaks down a task and hands it to multiple different sub-agents, with an agent that then combines the results on the other side, is one that is doomed to be fairly brittle because the transmission of context from agent to sub-agent and then sub-agent back to agent can be really difficult. The example he gave was this. Suppose your task is build a Flappy Bird clone. This gets divided into subtask 1, build a moving game background with green pipes and hitboxes, and subtask 2, build a bird that you can move up and down. It turns out
what I was just talking about, breaking it down into subtasks.
Agent 1 accidentally mistook your subtask and started building a background that looks like Super Mario Bros. Sub-Agent 2 built you a bird, but it doesn't look like a game asset, and it moves nothing like the one in Flappy Bird. Now the final agent is left with the undesirable task of combining these two miscommunications. Now he goes to some potential solves, but still finds them unreliable, and ultimately comes to the idea of instead building a single-threaded linear agent. In the cognition model, the agent breaks down the task and breaks it into subtasks rather than sub-agents. So the same agent does the breaking down of the task, then the doing of subtask 1 and subtask 2, and then combines the results, with the idea being largely that this carries context between the different tasks better than the other multi-agent system. Here the context is continuous. At the same time, they recognize that as very large tasks start to have so many subparts that context windows start to overflow, that there may be a need for a new approach. One architecture that they share is the idea of a sidelong context compression LLM, which basically across each stage compresses the conversation and action so far, i.e. the context, into a set of key moments and decisions, with that compressed context being what informs the next subtask's work.
I like that. Also using a larger context window, right? And again, this is why I like Gemini. I never am concerned about coming up against context window limits because Gemini has the largest context window of anyone out there, right? Like by almost a 10x.
Now, whether you agree with this strategy or not is not the point of this piece. It's to show how context engineering is starting to become a part of some of the most important questions in AI, which
absolutely, Reed. Like, and that's the thing is, like I don't concede anything, right? I don't want to concede anywhere. Those spaces aren't their spaces. Those spaces are our spaces. So let's, and like, is it a lot? Does it require a lot of energy? Everything else? Absolutely. Right. But within that context, that's why using the tool can do a lot of that work for you. Yeah, you got a lot of, you got to work, you got to take care of your family, and you got to, make food and fucking sleep sometime and all that kind of shit. You need someone to help you, right? And on some cases, it's going to be other people. And on some cases, it's going to be the tool. And then you can share the stuff easily between yourself and the other people. And it has access. So you can take all the books written about propaganda. You want to make good propaganda, right? You take all the books that you can find about propaganda and put them into a model and have it help you write good propaganda, right? Books that you don't have time to read, right? In the time that you could read one of those books, it can read all of those books.
Has to do with how to build agents that are actually highly functional. And if you look around for about 5 minutes, we are seeing a ton
also propaganda is not a pejorative
of discussion of context engineering pop up. Just a couple of days ago, Lance Martin wrote on their blog a post called Context Engineering for Agents. Lance writes, as Andrei Karpathy puts it, LLMs are a kind of new operating system. The LLM is like the CPU, and its context window is like RAM, representing a working memory for the model. Context enters an LLM in several ways.
Absolutely, squirrel nuts.
Including prompts, user instructions, retrieval, e.g. documents, and tool calls, e.g. APIs. Just like RAM, the LLM context window has limited communication bandwidth to handle these various sources of context. And just like an operating system curates what fits into a CPU's RAM, we can think about context engineering as packaging and managing the context needed for an LLM to perform a task. So once again, this is coming at that same issue that we saw in the cognition blog of having to engineer systems that get the right context, but don't just dump everything in willy-nilly. What Lance points out is the growing importance of this domain. He points to a quote from Cognition again, who writes, "Context engineering is effectively the #1 job of engineers building AI agents," and another quote from Anthropic that read, "Agents often engage in conversations spanning hundreds of turns, requiring careful context management strategies." Now, the second part of this blog is all about the ways that we can manage that context and new strategies for that sort of context management, which is a little bit more technical and out of scope for this particular show, but I will include this in the show notes so you can go check it out for yourself. Lance talks about curating context, i.e. managing the tokens that an agent sees at each turn, persisting context, involving systems to store, save, and retrieve context over time, and isolating context, involving approaches to partition context across agents or environments. Lance points out that we are still at the very beginning early baby steps for forming general principles for building agents, and that's why there's such an explosion in this discussion. Another post that was published on the same day comes from the LangChain blog and is called "The Rise of Context Engineering." The piece reads, "Context engineering is building dynamic systems to provide the right information and tools in the right format such that the LLM can plausibly accomplish the task. Most of the time when an agent is not performing reliably, the underlying cause is that the appropriate context, instructions, and tools have not been communicated to the model. LLM applications are evolving from single prompts to more complex dynamic agentic systems. As such, context engineering is becoming the most important skill an AI engineer can develop." And again, this piece really reiterates that when agentic systems mess up, and LLMs tend to mess up, either because they're just not good enough, or because it didn't have the appropriate context. What's more, the author argues that as models get better, it tends to be more that second reason. The author
I like the one with the ducks on it. Nice. 71,000 donated. Very nice.
Concludes, context engineering isn't a new idea. Agent builders have been doing it for the past year or two. It's a new term that aptly describes an increasingly important skill. So I think that there are actually two different domains of context engineering that are worth us keeping in mind and that are worth you and I exploring. The first is context engineering in the context of AI engineers and actual agent building. In other words, for people who are building agentic systems, software engineers that are thinking about how to make agents more performant and work on higher complexity and higher order tasks, these questions of context engineering are about system design. They're about things like the context compression LLM that sits alongside a single agent system and makes it work better. There is a whole entire important discourse happening in that domain that will influence the shape of the agents that even non-coders and non-technical people ultimately interact with. However, my strong guess is that we're likely to start seeing context engineering also refer to a term for consumers and just regular LLM users. In the same way that we have increasingly taught ourselves or tried to teach ourselves how to prompt LLMs to get the most out of them, my guess is that context engineering in a user environment is going to become a more important field and discipline as well. What's the right amount of information to give any given model? Which models are better at different types of information? Indeed, one area where we have started to see this is in the release of O3 Pro. You'll remember that the piece from Latent Space that I thought was the best summary of O3 Pro was called "God is Hungry for Context," and it basically argued that the big difference between O3 and O3 Pro was that O3 Pro was better at handling lots and lots of context. When the authors of this piece gave it a huge volume of information about their company, including past meeting notes and recorded audio, it came back with a much better strategy for them than O3 did alone. And so in that, we have context engineering from a user standpoint, both in terms of model selection and which model is going to be better at context, and second, in terms of what type of context to give it. I think it's an extremely dynamic field. I think it's likely going to be every bit, if not more important than prompt engineering in how we use these tools. And I'm excited to share more about this as it becomes a bigger part of conversation. For now, though, that is going to do it for today's little baby primer on context engineering. I hope this was useful. Appreciate you guys listening or watching as always. And until next time, peace.
We need to talk about the knowledge.
Nope. We do not need to talk about anything else because I, unfortunately, have to leave you. So please stick around for the raid. You know how this works. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you learned something. I hope you feel more knowledgeable, feel better, etc. We're gonna raid She Snaps. She Snaps is a homie, been on the channel, had a nice conversation. Good stuff about communication. What up, Dr. Koshi? Good stuff about communication. Like communication is key. Like people aren't gonna listen to you unless you know how to talk to them and you know how to listen, right? This is like it's all in the mix, babies. I will be back tomorrow. I assume I will be back tomorrow at noon again. The schedule is going to be 1 o'clock, but until I actually start the new job, I am going to come on at noon, especially with James having the a few days off. I'm gonna try and get some more streams in, right? And I'm gonna try to fill that gap so y'all have something to do and you're not lost in the woods. I appreciate all of you. In the meantime, first of all, hydrate extra. Drink your water, eat some food, take your meds if you forgot, and always remember that Shoggy loves you. And so do I. Be great.